on take a load in the
oh le cái bao body PM
oh in pe
oh le kan trăn đón to à hey voin hi kan finishing school hi ani lina ania zirlai te kan van nei hle maya tang thi som pa quarterin he finishing school hi kan ti tani kuma kan ti thei lowa in van nei kan ti na chan chu kum halam zong chuan sang thi som pa kum halam zong chuan classroom kan zir tir ba hi chu exam azawa kanin thaliam nal na la engma syllabus ba khi kanin zir tir ba lowa sang thi som pa quarter ne lo chuan cover thang zela phazon zela kan ho tu ten kan zirlai te college ko san tu an zirlai bu remote an zirato love an chwa dona an hun kal zela tana an hmalan hun atana tangkai tu ram khoi tu te mo potlang le association na te mo tin zirna sang zok te po an la beyanga tin na chungchanga exam te pon na duanga chu tiang ani tina an nuna tangkai tu ro mai hi e lecture i pethi nangu tin sang ni som bakwa tang khan e huni kal pu ania chuwang zirlai te tunlai zirlai te kan van nei hle maya a chan chu hei college kan chu san dona a then chu kan pass anga then chu kan pass kherlo mai thaya eng po ni se a college rim phrim hi kan chu san dona khovel dang thenin zirna sang zo a thenin chun zom tolovin enge mo mani ei zon na mo tin a then chu por khoi tu mo tin chung kwa mo phuna thare mo te kan nei theya chunga tan chuan tuna kan finishing school hi a kan lecture ngai thak to te le kan la ngai thak le tur hi an thil tam taka min pui don ani chuwangin kan syllabus kan zira graduate kan niringot tu rakha atok lowin kan thria kan ho tu ten hetiang ang hun hi hanan ruam hanania chuti rual chu wain atel hi kan thanem no hle maya mi zani chuang tura zabor te kan tela angpo ni sela atel chuna te hi atira tra tel la hi atop hi tel tuan theila ti kha kan him ngen bok ani tin lecture te kan ngai thak te kan ti reng rengin serious takin ngai thaila a thei phei chuan notebook ate lo zia kila a chan chu ni tin lecture ngai tha kan nia e kan threseng lo theya kan kan kin zel han en le ta tan te po hianin a thani ti kha kan soi le du bok a voina hian kan thu pui tur hi communication skills ti nia speaker tur kan resource person tur hi Professor Lalthlamuani Mizoram University Department of English a professor ania ani tunai hian head of department ani bokani irani hi as always college han kum some molai kan thok howa ti chon kum sang hi palia Mizoram University min suk san ta India ram hun thang mai ni lovin khovel hun thang Bangkok ti te Switzerland na te national te international paper te president chu tiang chuanin hemi academic lama mi chuanom takania tin tuna po hian a hun boi takara kan som na te min ngai poi moani min pia lok te theng te po khan seminar te an la neya chu tiang chuan voina tan po hian hun chek takara arinin buat sai ani chu wangin lecture kan ngai thak te i hlut thiamila kan resource person chu tiang anga mi qualified tak e kan nei ani ti kha kan an soi duwa tin chu mai ni lawin ka soi tong khan as always college sa hun re tak lo thok ve to ni wangin ke ni tan chuan mi hrang ani lowa ama poi nei da mi hrang lowa voi ni hian tlang ne takin he hun mang tur hian kan han som ani tuna chuan kan ama Professor Lalthlamuani e thu soi turin lo som amule.
Thank you Puvula Sarvula
alo mom ka ti em a voinia min lo som na hi ka phu lo ka tia camera hi ka on do nem le
nghe soi video thì on hồ sẽ
thì kan na try em
nắng bạn này kan on
nắng bạn lòng than mò
mình lo nắng bạn này kan on rồi video
thì kan na try em ka
lăng lâu
em
mê là lăng lâu
connection vang kan connection tu thasia ka o chu shat le tu ro nakina local tur ngai yang ro ka ma yang ale voina hian he alo mom ka ti em a Aizawl West College ina min som na hi
ram han tin đâu vậy cái ngay thằng này sẽ lại trong đầu tin yêu cả
ka o in che thein khan ale ni china servulan asoi tong khan Aizawl West College tu ka in ti ta tu ve viawa awang chu ke po ka bultan na ania he la tu na nge ka din bun min shwai thleng tu ka te lo thei lawa alom om ka tia azum ka ti boka in fan to na amaro chu ka phu lo le in ka sia che to pin ka hal ko
it's not working here
chu wang chuanin min lo ngai thlak thiam dan baka I mizo tongin soi turin ka in bot sai lawa communication skills in tia baka enge college students te India wangin English to thiam vek tu ra ngaya le teachers dang hopon lectures dang hopon English vekin an conducting karinga chu wang chuanin English in karon ti mayanga tikhanin ka video chu kam mo start your video tika start my video tika chu ka met nge ya amaro chu kalang thei lo amoni le okay whatever we'll carry on with what we are proposing to do for today so first the topic for today's presentation is communication skills. As we all know, in this global world, communication is a very important skill. Now, developing the communication skills can help us in all aspects of our life, from the professional to social gatherings and everything in between. Now, there is a myth which I have heard, and I want to make this clear, because there is a belief that good communication does not mean knowing the English language. This is the first myth I want to make clear. Now, many people, especially we can say the Mizos, we have a misconception that if I have learned this English language or the language of English, then I have learned to communicate. But this is not so. We should keep that in mind, because English is a language and communication is an art. And these are, we can say, two very different things, okay? So even after we learn a language, the way we communicate, our communication skills can still be very pathetic, okay? So, for example, you just imagine a person who is born in an uncivilized world, or we can say who is born in the jungle. He doesn't know any language, but he knows how to communicate, right? And also, for that matter, when we look at each of us, every person's way of communicating, our body language, will be different from one another. There are various, we can say, variations or differences in the way in which we communicate depending on the person. So the ability to communicate information accurately, very clearly, as we want it to be, as we intend it to be, is a very vital life skill. And this is something that should not be overlooked. Okay. It is never too late to work on your communication skills. And by doing so, what happens is
Oh, excuse
you
me,
are
Maman.
improving
Hello.
your quality
Oh,
of
video ka han
life.
try thalet sin ze.
Yes. Okay,
Video ka
ma'am.
han try thalet sin te. Oh.
Okay, ma'am.
Oh.
Uh, इसका वीडियो ही चुका ऑन रिंग आ
Eh. Oh. Tang mai rồi. Oh. Ah, hay làm hi tiếng lâu ni đó ni. Oh, tiro. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so where were you? The ability to communicate information, the ability to give information very clearly as we intend it to be, is a vital life skill. And this is something we should not overlook. Okay. Now, I believe I am speaking to the students, and there is a great concern among students about communication skills. Because what happens is, in this world today, there are various industries where communicative skill has become very, very important. For example, like in hospitality, tourism, management, what happens is we are able to solve many issues like guest issues, or for example, by good proactive communication. Regardless of the field, whether we are from the engineering stream, or whether we are from the business stream, or whether we want to be politicians or whatever, the fact remains that the individual's communicative skill and their leadership skills, which are correlated, can distinguish, it can mark the journey of our achievements. Now, professionally, I believe you are all going to apply for jobs. And after you have had your postings, you will be asking for promotions or whatever. And you will most certainly need to demonstrate good communication skills. These communication skills are needed in order to speak in a very appropriate manner with a wide variety of people while maintaining, we can say, a good eye contact, a varied vocabulary. We must tailor our language in order to suit our audience. Okay. Now, I want to come back to the statement that communication is an art. It is an art that can be learned. Okay. And it is an art that can be learned, and also it is an art that can be developed. With practice, communication skills can be developed. English is only a language that can be learned. Now, there is a problem, a mistake which people tend to make. They try to learn words from the dictionary. Okay, strange, high-sounding, very critical words, and they try to insert it wherever possible in order to impress people. Now, what happens here is that even though he may speak in profound English language, English words, what happens is that he has, if he has not developed his art of communication, he will certainly fail in what he is trying to present before his peers, before his friends, before his who can say that his employer, so on and so forth. So, therefore, what I would like to suggest today is to learn the art of communication first in our mother tongue. Here, it is not English I am going to stress on, but how we can communicate. Okay, and side by side, if you want to learn English or if you want to improve your English, then you might try to keep a journal, you might try to keep a small notebook wherein you will write whatever words, new words that you come across each and every day. Okay, so this is just the kind of introduction that I'm trying to build up to communication skills. Now, let us begin by setting the stage. Most of us view communication as an instinctive skill, as an instinctive capability, something that we are all very good at. We walk, we talk, we write, we use body language in order to express ourselves. And we have the assumption that because we have done that, we have been able to be understood, we have been able to communicate. But this is not so. Okay? This is not so because the fact is that uh, about half of our communicative attempts have not been heard. And this becomes a very shocking reality. Now, I have prepared certain slides with which I would like, because, just try speaking from one side, I think it becomes monotonous at some extent. And I feel that I will not be able to communicate what I would like you to perceive from this particular class. So I would like to give a PowerPoint presentation. I have prepared a few slides. Let me see if I am able to present them. Uh, Wait. Share. How is it I can't share my screen? Hello?
Oh, hello.
Uvul.
Oi,
Kaspin.
alang thấy là wa nang
Kan
mo la ba.
kan.
A share taker.
Oh,
Oh, hello.
Pikan ang puti.
la mu thấy chia lo.
Never boy love. Oh, ege omzian yang. Oh,
Rất tiếng lo.
Mamuan.
oh.
A video sim ha kan la mu thei lo mo nang ma video ka.
Oh.
Chu I video lan phot lo chuan screen share po ka lang don lo mo.
Ka video hi engtin nge ka tila nang.
An out chin la hi ron lut thale lok me don mi o.
Ka chuak zo ka nge on ni.
Oh.
Oh, tu na ai mi somruk pariat kan lut to a lut sa hi chu chua to lo tur ni mo chu wangin tu na kha kan resource person in slide tur te aron ti do na chu kan hak lo ka nga chu wangin to thei de kan lo hak do nia oh alang e oh alang to e
Okay, maso.
kan hu thei e
ngaro. I think ka present na lai tuk tak tur ka.
Oh, tu na slide tour. Kan hak me ka do te de win kan long ha do nia. In note bu te kha at in ru ruwa zo na om te mo lecture tang te mo khan lo chin cheu la zo na kan nei du te po.
Oh, tikana langim.
Oh lang e alang thie. Oh alang thi to e.
Ngaro. Yeah.
Alang thalu tuk khan.
Ngana chamo.
Oh thai.
Ole. Okay, now let us look at first a few communication codes to help us in order to set the stage. Right. Now, this is George Bernard Shaw, who says the biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it has taken place. Okay. And then next, Ruel Oho, he says it is false to assume that if one can talk, he can communicate, because so much of our education misleads people into thinking that communication is easier than it is. The wonder is not that communication is as difficult as it is, but that it occurs as much as it does. Okay. Then I have lastly the third code. Half the world is composed of people who have something to say and can't, and the other half who have nothing to say and keep on saying it. So this, I can say, in a way, sort of sums up a lot of thinking about communication, that it is not what all that we think it is. This is a good reason for us in order to dig into communication and learn how to do it effectively, right? Now, these are the various learning points that I have tried to incorporate into today's session. First, we will define communication and communication skills, and then the importance of good communication skills, and then we will establish the goal of effective communication. Next, we will understand the communication process. And next, we will discuss the types of communication, then levels of communication and barriers to effective communication. And then I will try to give some tips on becoming a more effective communicator. Right. So first of all, let us come to the definitions. Communication, the definitions of communication. Now, this word communication, it comes from the Latin words communicare, which or communio and communis, which means to share, to exchange, to hold in common, etc. According to the Oxford Dictionary, it is the action of conveying or exchanging information and ideas. Okay, so communication is the process by which information is exchanged by words, by symbols, by signs, and body language. I will just rephrase that. What is communication? It is a process of exchanging information, ideas, thoughts, feelings, emotions through speech, signals, writing, and behavior. Right. And then we come to communication skills. What are the skills of communication? Communication skills represent the ability to convey information, the ability to use language in order to express more effectively the information, in order to make a better understanding of what we want to convey. Okay, interpersonal skills are important in a wide range of circumstances. And in fact, we meet people every day, we interact with people every day, and we find that communication skills are essential for starting to build up relationships, both in the professional sphere as well as at home amongst our friends. So good communicative skills can also enable us to work more effectively as a group, as a team. It may be formal, it may be informal. So we can say that communication is a process by which information is exchanged, and communicative skills is our ability to communicate more effectively and more competently. Okay, now uh, why is it so important? The importance of good communication skills. Developing communication skills can help us in all aspects of life, from the professional field to social gatherings, even in the home or in the workplace. Okay, the ability to communicate information accurately, clearly, as we intended to be, is a vital life skill, and it should not be overlooked. It is never too late to work on our communication skills. And if we work on it, as I have said before, it is a skill that is learned, that can be developed. So if we develop our communicative skills, we will be improving our quality of life. Now, as I've also said before, professionally in the professional field, when you are applying for jobs or when you are looking for promotions with your current employer, you will need to demonstrate good communication skills. Okay, so communication skills are needed to speak appropriately with a wide variety of people, whilst maintaining, how can that be done? Good eye contact, varied vocabulary, the tailoring our language in order to suit the audience, listening effectively, presenting our ideas appropriately, writing clearly, concisely. So all these are the essential skills that an employer would seek in each and every one who is going for some kind of an interview or whatever. Okay, so good communication skills, we can say, are the keys to success. That is why they are very important. Next, let's cover the goal of effective communication. Now, effective communication has two goals. The first one is the ability to send clear, concise messages that can be more easily understood by the receiver of the message. And secondly, our ability to hear and correctly understand messages that are being sent to us. We hear messages, we have to understand these messages that we are hearing. Okay, now let's go to the very fundamentals and talk about the communication process. For communication to happen, what happens is we must have three things. Okay, first we need to have a sender of a message. Secondly, we need to have a receiver. And thirdly, this is very important, there has to be an acknowledgement, or as you see in the stage, there has to be feedback on the part of the receiver back to the sender of the message, that the receiver has got whatever is being told, whatever is being informed by the sender. Okay, so if there is no acknowledgement, if there is no feedback, we may say that communication is a failure. Acknowledgement tends to be the missing link. Okay, now I would like us to examine these requirements with the help of an exercise. Now, imagine two people sitting on each side of a large wall and neither can see each other, right? Now, the first person shouts out, "Hello, are you there?" Now, is that communication? When the first person just shouts out, "Hello, are you there?" No. Why? Because the sender doesn't reciprocate. The sender doesn't know if the message had been received by the other person who is on the other side of the wall. Okay, so just saying "Hello, are you there?" is not communication, because the sender is unaware if the other person on the other side of the wall has been able to hear what he has said, has been able to receive and understand the message that was being said. Okay, and then coming back to the other side, we go to the other side of the wall and we encounter the second person. Now, the second person responds to the message by saying, "Hello, I am here." Now, again, the question that I would like to ask you is that communication? We have been able to come to the second person who seems to respond to the message, "Hello, I'm here." Now, still then, what happens is the first person has not acknowledged that the message from the second person has been received. Okay, so this also is not communication, because the original sender of the message has not acknowledged the message from the or is unaware that his message has been received by the second person. Okay, and then we again revert back to the first person. And then going back to the first person hears the response. Now, the second person says, "Hello, I am here." And then as soon as the first person hears the response of the second person, he says, "Glad you are there. Thanks." Again, the question I want to ask is this communication? Now, I have suggested that This is communication because both the sender and the receiver of the message have received and acknowledged. They have made, been able to make an understanding of the message that was going back and forth. Okay, so I would like to state here that communication can be compared to a game of tennis. At this point here, the ball comes back and forth across the net. Okay, if you lobbed a tennis ball over the net and you cannot see your opponent, you get a better view of what communication is like. But if the ball is returned, there are two people on both sides of the net. One is lobbing the ball to the other side, and then the other person returns back the ball. And this we find is also comparable to the communication process. Had the ball not been returned by the other person, or had there not been any other person to return that ball, then it would be only that the one who is on the right side of the net is just lobbing the ball towards the left, and there cannot be a vice versa kind of thing. So the only way we are able to find out that if this is communication or not is whether that person has received the message in order to return back, in order to respond to what was being said. Okay. Now, we may even say that communication is a back and forth process. It is a kind of an exchange. How many times do we send messages assuming that the other person has received and understood the message? For example, like whether we are sending an email, or whether we are leaving a voice message, or we are shouting out a kind of a verbal request. The key point that I want to stress here is that until both parties acknowledge the back and forth process, there is no communication. It is only an exchange of words. It is only an exchange of signals. Okay. Now let us go to the types. I think I'm being a bit slow, so I will try to be as fast as possible. Let us go to the uh, uh, types of communication. There are basically, I have written down here, three types of communication. Verbal, that is what is said. Secondly, non-verbal, what a body says. And thirdly, paraverbal, the way we go about saying something. Okay, so let us look at each type. Now, first, verbal communication. The first type of communication is verbal communication. Verbal communication namely means the words that we use in order to express something that we want to communicate. Okay, words tend to have different meanings based on several factors. Now, the first factor that I would like to talk about here is the strength of our voice. There is a lot of difference between a loud voice that says, "Hello, are you there?" versus a very soft voice that says, "How are you?" Okay, I think you are able to connote the difference. The soft voice of a mother, which is very soothing, which the lullaby that she sings in order to make her child fall asleep, in comparison to a very loud, harsh, threatening voice that is very frightening. And also, we find that when you watch a game, for example, like a game of football, You see that there is a half time, and then there is a coach who comes in during that time, and he tries to motivate. So there are different ways in which we what communicate by the strength of our voice. So the strength of our voice is something which is relative to communication. And secondly, the tone of our voice. Now, relative to what the soft, smooth voice that we have talked about, like a mother singing a lullaby, the tone of our voice. What kind of tone are we using? Is there, for example, when I say, help, help, there is a sense of urgency, right? We are alerting someone that we are in danger. Or, for example, a child or a teenager uh, begging his parents, please, mama, please, mo kanu. That's how we do it, right? In Mizo. Mo kanu, tutu minlo le, tutu kadu, eh. Yeah. So the desire to get something. What is the change that is there in our voice? The kind of how our voice, what uh, changes in condition to what we want to convey. And lastly, the speed of our voice. When we are talking in a very slow, deliberate style, we want to make a point. We want to show that we are right. And then when we try to get someone's attention in a very fast staccato style, we say, are you listening to me? Are you listening to me? Please listen. Or so we are here. I am trying to state the fact that verbal communication is impacted by words, and these words convey different meanings based upon the strength of our voice, based upon the tone of our voice, and based upon the speed of our voice. Okay. Now, the second type of communication is non-verbal communication. I've given here a quote from one professor from the University of Los Angeles who says that the messages that we send through our posture, gesture, facial expression, spatial distance account for 55% of what is perceived and understood by others. Our body language is always communicating, whether we mean or not. Where unconsciously also, this body language happens. Okay, so in this non-verbal form of communication, we can say that we communicate by our emotions, what is there within us, by using our face, our eyes, and our body. Now, let us look at our face, how the face comes into play in this non-verbal communication. The facial expressions that we have, what it reveals, the emotions that are there. Now you look at the pictures, the three pictures, what do you see? The three characters indicate a lot of difference. The first one is smiling, right? And then the third one, is he smiling? I don't think so. I think all of you are able to see these emoticons. So there is a lot of difference between the feelings that we pick up from a happy, smiling face versus an angry face, and the face which is in between, the face that I have put in the middle. Therefore, we can say that the face plays a very vital role in communicating feelings. Okay, when you look at a person's face, You are able to, you are aware whether he is in good spirits, whether he is angry, whether he is sad or whatever. And next, let us look at the eyes, how the eyes come into play with non-verbal communication. Our eyes are particularly expressive in telegraphing joy, sadness, anger, confusion, whatever. Now, look at this picture. What do you see? The child is smiling, but at the same time, you look at his eyes, okay? And then look at this eye, the eye of this lady. What kind of an expression does it convey? What is the communication that this lady seems to possess, right, from looking at her eyes? And then what about this? Okay, so these are the various expressions. Lastly, this is the small child. You look at her eyes, there are tears in her eyes. Can you say that she is very happy? Okay, so what I am trying to say here is that the eyes can be used as a tool to help communication and in order to convey our feelings, whether we are very happy, whether we are very surprised, as this woman with her eyes suggests, and then whether we are angry or whether we are very sad, whether we are very depressed, so on and so forth. And lastly, let us take a look at the body postures, the gestures that we make with our body, how we present ourselves. For example, look at these two characters. They are standing. Now, what would be your conclusion by just looking at the picture? Would you say that they are very happy? Right? Their body suggests, the suggestion that you get from the body is something which is very much in opposition to happiness. Now look at the second one. Is it the same with the first? Look at the body positions. Is it the same with the first picture? Not so, right? Now look at this. What is this man doing? Look at his body posture. He's scowling and then he's pointing the finger and then he seems to be very full of frustration, right? And then this young woman, she seems to be very depressed, okay? So these are the various, we can say, postures, the various gestures that uh, we present ourselves in, which sort of communicates what is there within us, right? And then look at these pictures. These are some of the ways in which our body communicates, our demeanor, how we present ourselves, whether we are happy, whether we are sad, whether we are expectant, whether we are angry, confused, tired, energetic, all have different ways of expressing ourselves. Okay, so we tend to align our inner feelings, our demeanor in order to match the occasion. If we are upbeat, happy, our body uh, tells it all.
Oh, we love beer, huh? We love
Depressed or
to.
angry, our body tells us that also. Not only is it felt within our body, but the other person that we are trying to communicate is able to sense, and he is basically able to pick it up from the way that we present our body. So we can say that our body instinctively causes the face, the movements of our arms, our legs, the way we position ourselves into the situations that we are involved in, right? And then we have we have been looking at the verbal, non-verbal, and this is the third one, the third type of communication, paraverbal communication. The way we say something, our tone, our pitch, our pace. Okay, now I have given here a phrase. I didn't say you were stupid. Now, depending on which of the word is emphasized, this particular statement, this particular phrase will have different meanings. Okay, so the way in which we say things, the tone, the pitch, the pace conveys a meaning which is different to the person who is supposed to receive a message. Okay, and then let us preview some of the barriers to effective communication. We can create communication barriers that impede effective communication. It is important that we understand what are these barriers and how they operate, and thereby we will be able to gain communicative skills. First of all, we have verbal barriers, our word and how we say these words. Secondly, we have non-verbal barriers, what our body says. And thirdly, actions of our bodies. In other words, what is not said. As we have seen in the previous instance, that we do not say it, but it is our body which implies the kind of situation that we are in. Okay, and then we look at uh, the verbal barriers. Now, for example, this is a statement. If you were doing your job properly, we wouldn't be in this situation, would we? So what is this? What kind of, we can say, communication does it convey? That it is criticizing, that it is blaming somebody. So this is the first of the verbal barriers. We attack someone, thereby communication becomes difficult. And secondly, is we can say the condescending style, where we preach to somebody or we try to diagnose a problem. For instance, the statement that is there on the slide, you obviously didn't realize that if you were following procedures, you wouldn't have created this problem. And then thirdly, the third type of verbal barrier is when we try to show power, that we are in command. Like, for example, shouting and calling names and making some kind of menacing gestures to others. So all these do not bring about a very effective communication. If we are attacking, if we are preaching, if we are threatening, if we are commanding the other person, what happens is that we immediately put that other person on the defensive, and we are not going to create a conducive atmosphere for pleasant conversation. So these are the verbal barriers. And then there are non-verbal barriers. Like, for example, flashing or rolling your eyes. When you hear somebody saying something and you look up and down, you roll your eyes, what happens? Then somebody says some things, and you come across a man who is with his arms crossed, with his legs crossed. What does this suggest? That he is not open to any discussion. So on and so forth. The gestures made with exasperation, the slouching, these are what some of the barriers. Distracting oneself by picking your teeth with a toothpick, doodling, playing with pencil, avoiding eye contact, and then supposing what happens is that you are conversing with somebody, and then the other person is looking at his phone always. What happens to you? Are you able to what? Are you able to sort of make some conversation with that other person? Not so, isn't it? You get frustrated because he is not listening to you. And naturally, this also happens the other way around. Excessive fidgeting, when you were sniffing, when you were yawning, when you were scratching yourself, when the other person is speaking. So these are all, we can say, the non-verbal communication barriers. Okay, these are barriers which impede communication. Okay, and then another important barrier is what is not said barrier. Now, there is a person who says, Peter Drucker says, the most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said. For instance, you are very angry with someone, and then that other person tries to speak to you, and you says, "I'm fine." What does it suggest? That it shows to the other person that you were angry, even though you say you are fine. Okay, and then also another example that I've said here is when you sadly said, "Oh, I don't know." You were trying to convey the fact that you don't know something, but at the same time you are conveying the fact that you are sad. Okay, now these are some of the tips that I've tried to highlight in order to become a more effective communication, the skills that we need in order to be a good communicator, the communicative skills. Now, the first is we should give feedback based on facts. When you are talking about something, you should talk not only from your own opinion or from only your emotions, but it should be based on facts. Next, we should try to see things from the other person's point of view. Try to put yourself in their shoes, or try to sit on the other side of the desk, and thereby you will be able to show that you empathize, that you have intuition, and there will be good communication. Next, learn to be a good listener. Literally, we should pay attention when somebody is speaking so that we can respond to that person's message. Okay, and when we are listening to that person's message, we will be able to ask clarifying questions, not out of the way questions. Okay, so we should learn to be a good listener. Next, don't preach or moralize. Don't pontificate. Don't try to moralize someone. We are not clerics. We are just common people. So we should not tell to the others that this is right or this is wrong. And then next is use a calm tone of voice. When you hear somebody speaking calmly, what happens? It always works. Even if you are very angry, if the other person is not angry at all and still persists in using a very calm voice, what happens is naturally you tend to lose your anger, right? And then the next is don't be sarcastic, don't be condescending, and you should always politely ask for something. You should not command. You should not just say, give me that pen, or give me a glass of water. If you say, can you please give me your pen? Can you please lend me your pen? Or can you please bring me a glass of water? So these are some of the ideas, these are some of the, we can say, tips that will help us in being a good communicator. Okay, and then here are some more additions. Don't dominate a conversation. What does this mean? When two people are sitting together and talking, you should try to listen. You should try to it is not only you who should talk. Okay, the conversation should not be dominated by one person. You should also let the other person speak, so that you are able to know what are his feelings, what are his emotions. And then don't, as I've already said, don't volunteer advice. Just as we should not give moralize, we should not preach, we should not moralize. So also we should not volunteer to give advice, to give our opinions when we are not asked for our opinions. Okay? And then we should try to get to the point. What is that you want to say? Don't beat about the bush. Don't be vague. Get to the point. And then don't talk down or up to others. Talk down meaning don't be so sarcastic. Don't look down upon other. Don't your language, your body gestures. As we have already said, there are verbal and non-verbal means of communication. So when we are using this, we should not talk down. We should not talk up to the others also. Okay, and something which is very important, which relates to the first thing that I have noted in the slide is, remember, it is you, not me, me. When it is always me, what happens? The other person will not like to be in your presence when you are always boasting of yourself. Okay, so you should remember that what you should also see to the fact that there is another person there. There is somebody in front of you with whom you are conversing, with whom you are talking. And then the next thing is, when you are done, stop talking. What does this mean? You want to say something, you want to give information, either to your friends, to your colleagues, or to your superiors. Just say what you have to say. Don't start saying gibberish. Stop talking the moment that you are done, because people will get bored with you. People will get tired of you. Okay. And another very important thing is, don't barge in when people are talking. Somebody or when you want to, for example, communicate with another person, you should just not barge in. They might be busy and they might not want to be distracted at that point of time. So it is always a very good idea to start a conversation by saying, is this a good time? Do you have a minute? Or if you are very busy, I'll get back to you in a minute or two. So we should accrue that the other person has the opportunity to either let you start a conversation, or they will be getting back to you if they do not have time at the present moment. Okay, so these are some of the communication tips that will help you to improve in your communication skills. Now, why have I made another slide here? Delicate issues, delicate discipline issues. When discussing delicate issues, delicate problems, what we should always try to do is we should schedule a meeting in advance. And these meetings should be, we can say, scheduled towards the end of the day, so that we do not want to spoil that the other person's day. Now, if you start a meeting and you are talking about something which is very delicate, what happens is that if you start it at the end of, towards the beginning of the day, that person will be sitting at his desk all day long, worrying about what was said, and vice versa, you also will be doing likewise. Okay, so in order to be an effective communication, this is just some of the tips that we can use when we are discussing delicate issues, delicate disciplines. It should always, the meeting should always be scheduled towards the end of the day, so that the night envelops it, and then the person is able to forget it in his sleep. Also, we should not try to communicate when a person is stressed out, when a person is feeling very emotional, when a person is feeling very hungry, or when he is tired, or when he is angry. Now, what happens? Because these are various emotions uh, which stresses the body. And what happens is that even if you try to communicate when all these kind of stresses are happening to that other person, they will not be able to listen. So communication will fail. Okay, so this is a communication skill that we should develop, that uh, uh, we should communicate when the person is what having a pleasant mood, when he is not depressed, when he is not angry, when he is not tired. Thereby, whatever information, whatever what things that we want to tell to the other person, that will be taken in. Otherwise, he will not be listening. He will be so filled with anger that he will not be able to concentrate on what you are saying. He will be thinking about what's going on in his own life. If he is very hungry, he will think about food, for example. If he is very tired, he will yawn at you, and then he will think about going to bed. So, what happens is the communication will not be effective at all. Okay. Uh, and then coming to contemporary communication issues. Now, the advancement of technology has ushered in a series of new communicative, or we can say contemporary issues, specifically with the impact of technology on communication and human interaction. We live in the new era of the smartphones and the social media. The youth, the young people, the young adults, we can say, are communicating in significantly different ways than the prior generations. So there is the creation of a new communication culture. For example, when we communicate and our elders, like for example, our grandparents are barging in and saying something, what do we usually say? "Iching hai mate," right? So they don't, we feel that they don't understand this new communication culture, the impact of the various technologies which have greatly impacted the youth, the teenagers. And what happens is that there is a decline in human touch. Interaction is being replaced by technology. We need to stop for a moment. We need to see how this new technological capability can help us improve in areas like teaching, in areas like learning. Many of the traditional teaching and learning methods of the past are no longer applicable, they are no longer effective. They need to be replaced by technological approaches. And we find that there are more appropriate tools, we can say, ways for learning approaches. What does the future of communication hold? This we will talk about in the next slide, the evolution of communication. Now, let us review the evolution of communication and then take a look at the future of communication. Now look at this picture. And the first, we have the first written word, and then the movable type, and then going on, we have the email, the Twitter, so on and so forth. We have moved from the early inscriptions that we found in the caves by cavemen, and then there was the invention of the printing press, and then mass publication, and now we are into the technological age of email, Twitter, smartphones, social media, so on and so forth. Technology has enabled a new communication culture. And the contemporary communication culture is having faster access with increased volumes. But what is happening is this is at the sacrifice of human interaction. As this we can see from this picture, this is the evolution of communication. Okay, so we can only hope that the future will bring about better alignment between communication technology and human and societal needs. We can expect more change, more sophisticated tools, faster speed, continued expansion of social media. Today also there was a problem in logging in, right? Because our internet facility that we get in the Northeast is not as good as those that are there in the capital areas, right? So we find that we can expect changes to happen. More sophisticated tools will be coming up. There will be faster internet. There will be expansion of the social media. We never heard of Twitter. We never heard of Instagram 4 or 5 years back, right? So with the technological advancement, we expect, or we will be able to see more expansion of the social media, and we expect that there will be a fusion of technology and the human body. So what we find is that the future represents an unlimited potential in terms of our ability to communicate. Now, in this era of lockdown, I am able to communicate with the teachers of Aizawl West College. I am able to communicate with the students of the finishing school. How is this possible? If the computer was not there, if the smartphone was not there, if the internet facility was not there, would this be possible? Not so, isn't it? So even though we say that we are losing human touch, what happens is that we are able to align ourselves to the communication technology, as well as to the needs that is there in the society in various walks of life. Okay, and with this, I would like to end this quotation. I would like to end my session. Think as a wise man, but communicate in the language of people. This is by William Yeats. It says so many things. The way our thought processes, but how do we actually communicate? We have talked about verbal, non-verbal barriers, and ways of improving our communication. So I would like all of us to take this as an ideal that we should think as a wise man, but communicate in the language of the people. Thank you.
Thank you to Professor Lalthlamuani for your wonderful lecture and slide. Ole tu na chuan zona kan nei chuan hi kan zo tanga kan resource person in aron changa nga hi chirlai te kha tu na zona nei kan chuan zona hun kan khong oh zona nei kan mem lecture atang khan emo imani ru lo omemo kan nei chuan kan resource person in miron chang do na ni oh English pon mizo trong pon mizo trong kan ti dan min ma point ti dan ni kha an zo tro le zo na nei kan lo mo ole alom ome kan resource person in communication skills kan ni tin nuna kan mamo tin roi tu emo mihring nun ho na hrim kan in lai chi na ta na thil tangkai kan ni tin na kan mamo tin khoya mo po la emo khoi lo kan kal na na kan dil na te tinga kan mamo tak mai kan resource person in voina min don thrila heng kan lecture hi YouTube ada ani do na nekina en le du kanom point chu en le vek thei do na ti kha kanan sei do voina hun tratak kan resource person in minon nei saka chunga lom thu kan soya ti chuan tun session hi kan ti to panga reido te a chuak dar lawila kan resource person ro chu i min chua san le ti kha tu ma chuak lo ula kan next session hi Miss Sang Queen min kai hroi don ni chuangin kun rei tu kan i to lowang lo bo thei char ro le una na te kan in thak lo kanga chuan kan tran zui mai don ya
cái chỗ mình sẽ thêm cái chỗ mình sẽ thêm mình lâu sang lúc ula
Miss country eh
ole kan chan hal me nga voina heta moderator karon chutna chan chu sarla leng za ba chutura niya ma ro chu an chung kwa in chhia tan to ka chu wang chuan ke moderator karon chang don ani le tun huna hian in panel chutur te hi mizo department zirtir tu te kan ni a in hel sha tirna lo nei nga lila sar h lelvul liana a video khalo on mai se mail khalo tilang se o thakan hod ani sar h lel ompuya sar opia o miss van lupuiral te miss vli chuanin presentation ron peturin lel chan chua chana a video lo on se chana hi kan mizo kora kan CR ani kan college SCwa kan vice president nilaya ni ole hun masalama khanin kan resource person he na changin communication skills fel fai fia takin kan ngai tha kan hal thei skill chatak tak kan sia ngai that ni lava tu tu kan tum don nia ole tu na kwan paper present turin del chan chua chana ilo so mang ole.
Good afternoon, everyone. Coming to Lalthan Chua, Ania, Mizo Department Government as always College, July Magni in Vinia here in personality development, noya communication skills, to put mangin presentation, karon pedonani, karon pekton mine, amasan kan professor, kan principal professor Lalthlamuani nali at hopefully faculties member te, tin Mizoram College Zonga IQSC travel. Government as always college IQSC te le government as always college department travel mizo department kanzir tu zong tele YouTube lam le Zoom lama kanzir lai puido tu zong te ama sain zawain kut sui lo chi bai kabu ka chau voinia kan tu pui kan topic hi communication skills tiania screen share hianin ka in board seina karon tilang vedona in mutai vekin karinga alang thai tro en poni se communication skills kha kan ma khanin kan resource person in FF fight takin ron sevek to atin kan nung lampanga kan professor ten ki ai thain laron sedon ti ke da wangin ke chu aphovuak vela khanin karon lam koi vel me don ani ya kan sei doa tin amasa kan trong mangin emo chet zia mangin emo khol mangin emo thil dang manga kan thil sei tum mutir tum le shilfia kan tum te fia takasoi mu le shilfia thai na hi ani tin ke mana ka she thiam danin communication skills khathian afia thai turna ka ngain karon soya mizo culture malai huna po khanin in communicate dan sang kha an ya lamangten entinan bola example alo petaila tlangwal rual ral beitura rammu an suak lo ting taka an lo ho chuan daya zana lenglen ho hun om vela silayan lo na bola an cham thin ni tu te ngan ti chuan khochung mi te chuan in tlangwal ral do tura chuak te lo ting takin an lo ho ti an sia atuk zinga molam lam thei turin thei to pin in buat seya ral do lo ting te lo huak turin tikhanin an lo in buat sei thei pha thin ani chu tiang te chu communication skills kan ti te zinga mi chu ania ti chonin kan miss khanin na china khanin aron seya enge meeting te engmoni ne kan buat sei don chuan zan lampanga at the end of the day aron tia abuat sei hi athae ati amai ro chu mana kan mizo hun malama kha chuanin palai kan in tirten zingkara anin tir thina ni hadam hun an ngai thina atya chonin kanun phunga lo danglam to wangin tikhanin communication skills mizo na kan lo in communicate dan la te po kha alo danglam chawve zelani tikha karon soi ma sadu ani ti chonin communication skills achunga tak tak han lu chil don taira ama sabera chuan ngai thak mizo zia de zelin karon soi don ani ngai thak mizo tereng reng a hianin ke tilavin nang ti chin nam kan ne a chuwang chuan ngai thak hi ti ma sak phot turani mithiam tam takina an soi manga chuan pathian in mishing te hi trong tam tur ni lovin ngai khatam turi min siama chuwang chuan beng pahni min pe a ka pakhat min pe ani an ti thin ani mi tu po eng anga trong kam thiam le onal po ni se ngai kha ka te imak lawa midang ngai khak ve lo chuanin biak nuam an ni ngai lo ani tia kan soi sim do example pakhat kan pre lo kanga ril ru ha na te mang an na te emo in pai thol na tur kan du in kan thian ho zinga tu tenge kan pan thin kan ti chuan atong thei ai chuan angai kha pe te an ni thin ani advice thatak tak min pek le turan nei lo pon kan thol huai thin tikha ama sabera kan sei do a tin atot le tan chuanin ro mei ang han tia ti vele ru ti ro mei ang ti e ro mei chu enge kan ti chuan ro mei athala kai buang hian apo deuh chia ya afia lo re thin ani mizo dana chuan mizo dan tila mizo culture chuan thuku taka soyanga ichang om thin ani e thi tlang taka soilova thu han khu dewa soyanga ichang kha om thina chu tenga chuan in entina tan man lai kan mizo culture khan zual kote an kal reng in tuemoni pa thi se zual ko in khodanga vakal se ipa athia local ro an tingot ngai lovani thuku takin ipa anna dewa machine kan in chan lo me lo om wangin ichung ten an ko che ni te po an ti thina te kan thuku takin an soi thina ni chu ti yang chon tun la ya po thuku taka thil soyanga ichang lo om thina hei social media thil ti sang kan vor da dana te po alo dong song tu atuar tu ate ta na rilunat na thlen thei tam tak om thina khathi deng jong zoi kan in communicate na hianin I thuku taka thil soyanga ichang te hi om thina ti kha kan ron sei la do chana point pathum na tan chuan fawang boruak ang han ron ti le ranga tai karon thu le la de uviau do na fawang boruak ang kan ti le dei chan hi fawang boruak chu athiang ka afia le ka thung thi si thina tuna ro mei ang kan ti opposite che kha ani le ang loi si thina ni a chan chu fawang boruak ang kan ti le chan dei chu enge mi thu kan sei mo kan thil sil fia tum kan ti kan soi don hian fia tak kan soi ang ai chang hi om le ang loi sia kan thil va sil tum atena chiang mang lova enge soi tum ni ang o ti an ngai to zui ngai lova fia taka kan soi hi ang ai chang om ve le thina ni thete hemi ya hianin apikin mei chelam hi timeng hemi fia taka thil soi hi an har sat deu thin ka sia tu mi example ka rom pe lak dona ka ngai zong pakhat kabialu pakhat ne na kanin haudan chanchin toy ten kan soyanga PUBG hi kan ka khela ni PUBG ka khel do na ti chon ni milo hak ro o ka tia an ole ka lo hak kang che chadeu na tia ti chon ni kan khel zawa milo hak ta renga I khel tha em in chikenem te lo tia khel thalo kan khel puinu pakhat hi revive renga nga ya ka tia ti chon in ani chon anga ma khan ka chaw tu wa kamu don mutui o aron ti ngal do mata enge amma puni chaw si lo enge tu na ta khai chaw tak thu ta enge om zia ka vatia ka du le ka chawang kan na nia mutui ron ti le ta dum ta ti chon atu ka te kan va belia min on reply la vati na tu ka atu thum na vela chon min on reply vele ta ti chon emoji rum ta ti ra chon min on reply te khanin kanin be chawa thin rim chan te kanan zo chonin enga tinge mei chia kha PUBG a khani revive hati rim ta ka revive po ka ti le nem revive fangai ka ti ni kha ka te dot ka se ti chonin kanin hang kanin siam thale ta ni khati kan soi na san chu khati nga te khan ti ra khan fia tak khanin han soi hal ta mai sela chuan ni thum kha buaya ngai lo mai tu ra ni ti chonin fia fel fight ta khanin ti khanin kanin communicate ke pa don ti na ani chu tenga chon fia ta ka soi ngai hun kha om le thin ti kha kan soi do ti chonin kan professor te kan zirtir tu te a kan soi de lak do kan zirtir tu te hi mi thiam tak tak te ania until min zirtir te hi an ma ni thin lunga le an dil ruwa chena fi em an sa thiam bokane amai ro chu hei expert tam tak chon teaching skills po an lo ti mai theya amai ro chu engting nge kan in teach kan ti chon by communicating ani chu wang chon communication skills a hian atel ve the kata kan thil zirti tu mai ke mania afia ai chuan kan zirlai te afia em ti kan soi chua dana te kan zirti dana te hian afia em ti hi in enzok thinira kan ti ve ronga ta sei tur om kan yang ka silawa amai ro chu eng ang point zirti tu thinlunga le rilu afia ma se zirlai ti thinlunga zirlai ti rilu ava soi fia thiam lo chuan kha class minute sumli panga chung kha hun khoral na mai mai ani thina ni chu wang chuanin hemi hianin fia taka soi fia tumte fia taka kan thil soi tum an thina tura thana soi fia kha atha a ti ha kan sira den point danga kai le nga le la nelom takin ti hi nelom taka nimina po khanin kha miss zik pui khan na soi to minar san tiketa khan a in zom pe ka heting te hi tuna kan miss kan resource person po khanaran soi le to boka nelom taka smiling face te na mi nui sang chunga kan va ma chon te hianin heading the communication skills pakhat kanin communicate na tura pakhat ania kan mizo syllabus kan paper 12 kan zirlai pakhata chuan pune ruwa essay pakhata what is culture tia chuanin heti hian asaya friendly approach brings friendly response atia chumi chu om zia chu nelom taka mi kan va ma chon chuan nilom tak bokin min lo chum thi ani ti ania chu ke ma ni na po kanin communicate na mi kan va biak na ko nga ti hian nilom taka mi kan va ma chon hi atha lein ka sia chu kanan soi te le chon appoint to bera tan chuan tuna kan resource person khan aron soi to thwa chung chi language ania communication chu art ani aron tia amai ro chu hei hi han zetel dan sam ka du mizo tong the dar kan ti hianin han ngai tua tai la trong in ton mi alo trong in thiam ton mi alo in communicate ai chon trong in thiam ate in communicate ka chuan in po zok ngai thina ni mizo trong hi khovel pum puya mang thei ni ta ila tu nai hen kong tam taka kan in communication a tha anga kan in po zok bok mai thei ni amai ro chu khovel pum puya the dar ka sei tum lamani lawa tu nai chonin zo na thak peng sang kan chevel rama zo na thak mizo tong la thiam si lo te a hianin kanin communicate thina tura tan mizo tong the dar hi kanin po ton theina tura tan mizo tong the dar hi atul lein ka sia tin chu mai ni lovin mizo tong the dar ba ka hianin kan mainland na khutilam panga an man than hindi kan ti te english kan ti te hi abo lo to ka thiam ve hi atang kai lein ka sia chu mi mang chuanin kan communication skills adang dang po kha develop le zel thei ani ti kha karan sei duani kalome
itu soi po ya cha
tubo in unmute drop unmute drop
ole kan lo me chana paper chata ka rod presena thu soya film khurangai ziate mi ru tina lo zonga soya chu ziate tin thu kan soin fia fel taka soya chu ziate khang te kha kan lo ngai thla atin mi kan ma chon reng in nelom taka oma chu ziate tin chong in sha thiam ton apoimo zia te kha kan ngai thla a tin mizo chong the dara chu ziate kan ngai thla a ngai thla tu te pon kan hlok pui nge kan be se ani ole tu na chuanin sarvula kan HOD ne na changin communication skill chungchang adu non-verbal communication te ponyanga adu soiturin ilo so mangu
ole kalome hei hoina kan resource person an soya tang khan kan communication skills nei that poimo zia midang te ne na kan in lai chi na te khoi thilani dan te tin ke mani career atan hrim po communication skills poimo zia te min ngai tu tira tuna khan kha chana khan PowerPoint slide te na ron tia khang te ka communication skill chi khat ania tin voi na kan soi du kan resource person khan aron soi zoka toite in tu na kan chana na ron soi le a kariru om ke mai na ni kuma ka zir chua katia hei kan mi srami hi kan IQS ho tu nu hei kan zoom tu na kan thil ti zong zonga a ho tu nu nia ani hianin mandeu khan counselor kan ni fe kalom hi tia ka ngai tu na khan om rau rau maya chu chu ni kum khan chu ani zia hi ka mu chuak ta communication skills ne na soi zom rem deuh mai hi ka zir chuak e katia chu kan soi kwal du anga kan venga rual ban lo atak salama rual ban lo hi oma nula mara churil ru le khatiang chu fing veka nikum masa khana thia a chan chin na buin an zia ka a chan chin kha zia tham deuh mai ni mi bik deuh mai nia ti chuan a chan chin an zia na bu chu an release a anu le pa kha kan rong bol pui ten nia preview han nei la min tia chuta an le khabu a chan chin ka chiara a thian kom ngei deuh deuh pahni thian anga em em a kom ngei deuh deuh pahni veng danga mi na chan chin an ron zia ve ve hrangin ka chiara chuta karil rumi khoi deuh ni china mi Mizoramin counselor in ni e min tia kha dik dawa ka hriat chu mi te pahni chu na hrang ve ve hian an thian nu chu baby ne thita chu abula om hi a ha dam kan ngai a chan chu kan veile kan thil du zong zong kan ril ro ha na te kan ril ro om te kan soi hi min ngai tha do thei deuh in min ngai tha kan soi lak lo lain min ti boi ngai mi lo ti hi a hrang ve ve hian an zia ka chu counselor kha alo ni ring me ni ti hi ka ngai to chua ka chu wangin ni china kan resource person in a sai good listener good listening atia kha communication atan he lo poimo khop maya mi ngai thak hi midang ne na kan relation siam na them em mai hi lo nia ni china khan kan resource person pon a soya thil discuss pon enge ni e dominate lo tur mi trong na kian tur han tiang chi te kha te po kha soya nia tin listening han tia po hian ni e passive listening e ti boi lo khatia do thei ta ka ngai thak kha counselor zia deuh mai kha lo nia chu chuan mi hring kan relation a kha alo siam dai me ni tuna kan an soya te po khan an ril ru ha na le an ril ru an ve te an soya do thei deuh mai a ti buai mi alowa alo ngai kha kha an ngai nat na em mai an thian nun ngai nat em mai kha alo nia chu wangin ngai thak hi tun lai kho vela chung kan mamo khobin ka ria midang ngai thak hi hei bible khan kan huwa sarmon pate deuh lek te bon han soila a thang e hei pathian thu te kan ngai thakha deuh lek to zopa le khabu khanin zopa kha a van duai na thi na te to ka pan na satak tak te to atuara a thian pathum te nan ron tlo ni a thian pathum te nan ron tlo a an ron tlo tir chon an nat na kha an nak khopa ni sari le zan sari trong lovina bulan omani ti chuan an hne mak ti khan an ngai thla ari ro ha na te ngai thla niang chu ani sari le zan sari an pela khan an trong chuak ta an trong chuak a an lo hnem lo na samaya an ngai thak khan an lo hnem dai jok kha lo nia a to pa zo pa phei chuanin thamuan tu tur hre min ni a tiringot maya ka bible a omania thamuan tu tur hre om chu wangin ngai thak hi tu lai kho vela chun kan che vela hei lockdown lai te nia kan bul ve la mi te ngai thak hi apoi mo khop maya chu wangin e amaro chu ngai thak ti te po hi ni e mi thu soi ngai thak te sermon te thil sang mi public speech ka lo ngai thla ni amo ngai thak dan te po hi chi sang oma passive listening anti anga ni react nia lova do thei taka tuna kan soi anga ngai thak top mai te ka communication thalutuk alo ni ti te ka in selective listening ten dia enge molai du big le khatiang lo ngai thak ka in active taka active listening ten dia chu enge ni ahun big enge moa va in terapa lo enge ni zo na te lo zo a khatiang ang chi te kha oma chu wangin tun lai khowela chuan ke ti na khovel chomala ma kan ngai thak anga thil kan soi ho pon dominate lutuk lo tur han tiang chi mi ngai thak thiam hi kan nun phung hian kan mo khop baya china kan soi ang khan lockdown lai te phei chuan mi ngai thak ka hi poi mo khop maya kan ram din huna ne hei thalai te kan nia in thalai pui tam tak khum sual dai te an oma chung te po jon ngai thatu hi an mamo ani hril tu hi an mamo te vak lo ngai thatu hi an mamo chu wangi kan ngai thape lo thina heng ho te po hi chu wangin voina hei thalai te kan nia ngai thak hi apoi mo khop maya voina hian kan resource person in an ron soi zoka tin chana khan an ron soi boka chung te chu kan soi hong hasa ni adu tok re
ole sarbula ole sarbula kan lo me ni tuna soi ang khanin mi ngai thak mi thu soi ngai thak hi poimo me ma thu soi tu le ngai thatu in pon hi apoimo ni mi in thu soi mo la amaro chu pakhatin ngai thlapia lawa phone lo khoi te thil danga lo ti san dei chuanin amula thu soi le kha acha kom to lo thina chuwang chuanin an communication kha acha thei don lawani tin office te kan han dora biak nuam le biak shi om deuh ten lo oma biak nuam na chu kan nela kadin communicate pui thei ani chuanin zirlai le zirtir tu helaya min lo tel pui tu te zong khanin nakina zona te zona hun te kan la ron hong dona khata zo thei tur khan kan penela thu te thu soi te kan resource person thu soi te le presentation kan ngai thak te atang khan lo in bo sei ula zona po zo cheu kan tum don nia ole tu na chuanin sar opia thu soi turin kan som le anga ani hianin verbal communication chung chau te le adu du soi turin ilo somang
o ka tong in the o kan resource person ron soi nual towa agenge can be at types te can be communication skills rang le kan man suadan tu le skills can be kan va mamo na rang te pokaron soi nual towa subang chuan chipa chiar le a detail deuh ang khan ron soi angai to lowin ka ria aron thual non ang le mangai poimo deuh lai an soi war deuh du kha kan nei te chu karon soi do na ti chuan communication skills ti kharon soi fia to nge a poimo na te kwat rang te pokaron ta to chu ta chon a toy fel thei ang bera kan soi chuan communication skills ที่ชวนมีดังเนี่ยนะทิลกันบัสสอยดูกันอินเบียกต้นนะกันอินเบียกโปต้นนะข้ามีอินเฟียเทียมต้นเทนะตัวรัสสอยเทียมนั่นแหละข้ามีกันอินเบียกต้นนะจุงจางกันสกิลส์ค่ะอาศัยตัวมันนี่ไม่แต่เพียงคัน communication ชวนทิลกันบัสสอยง่ายแต่ตัวออกมาทิลปฐุมไปหมดตักออกมาประคัดน่าชวนอาศัยตัวออกมาปัจจุบันน่าชวนง่ายแต่ตัวเราดงสองตัวข้าออกมาติดชวนกันทิลบัสสอยเองกัน message ข้าบอกแต่จะมีปฐุมสู่ communication เสียมตัวนี้ติดชวน communication อาคารจิตุมอินอันเทรนเรียนเดี๋ยวว่าชวนประคัดน่าชวน verbal ออกมาปัจจุบันน่าชวน nonverbal communication ผมเลยปฐุมน่าชวน visual แต่ข้าออกมาติดชวนverbal พวกข้าจิตนี่อันเทรนเลต้าเองverbal กันติดชวนตรงกาอินเบียกนักอวดพังอินเบียกนักขันนี้จุดจิตนี่อินอาศัยเทียประคัดน่าชวนเอง oral กันตีกันตรงชัวเลยปัจจุบันน่าชวน written อังจีเจียกันดาเจียกันอินทนอังจี message อีเมลอันนี้เอโม WhatsApp message อันนี้เอโมขัดยังค่ะโกกเทบกข้างค่ะกันอินเบียกโปต้นน่ะปอยโมตักกันนี้ติดชวนขัดตาขันเราทนตัวอาศัยตัวปอยโมถูกบกขันเราดงสองตัวค่ะปอยโมปัจจุบันปอยโมมันนี่ตีกันเฟตุรันนี้อาศัยตัวเราทนช่วงตัวริงวัดค่ะปอยโมเบลล์ว่าเราดงสองตัวค่ะปอยโมเบทวันนี้ตีค่ะเชียตัวรันนี้ติดส่วนเองไต่เล็กขัดเตียงซีสกิลสังค่ะการวันสวยนนเวกตัวเราว่ากันเชียตัวปอยโมตักซุ่มกัน resource person พวกขนาดรอนสวยโตประคัดซุเช่นขัดส่วน language ที่ communication ปอยโมเท่านั้นจงเฮียนตรงเทียมงอที่ communicator ทำหมดกันเตียข้าคันนี้เชื่อเลยว่ามี in English เทียมเดียวเทมี in Hindi เทียมเดียวเทมี in มิโซตรงดักนั่นตักอินเซียกเทปนี้เทมาเสกข้างดคันนี้เลยว่า language สู่อาชันที่เองออกมากันว่า in เบียกโปต้นหน้าคันเรียดตัวง่ายข้าองตานี่มี in English เทียมตักวัดโปเดียวนี่เทมาเสมีว่าเบียกหน้าคันเฟลเบียเทนี่จู่บางจังข้าก็เรียดฟันง่ายเฮตียกันหันไงตัวไม่ชวนนัลตะกตรงเทริงก็ทีโมกันเตียมาเสกข้าสกิลสักขันอัตเตลเท่านั้นซุงินข้างวัดข้าตกเสาเหล่าตีไล่ข้ากันเรียดง่ายวัดเรียดต่ำเตะขัดเตียงขัดจุปอยโมน้ำเมฆไม่จุดเตียงว่าจนขัดเตียงเรียดต่ำริงวัดข้าดิลวินมันชัวดานกันว่าอินเปกต้นดานกันว่าอินเบียกหน้าปอยโมตักข้าออกมาจู่ทิลปอยโมเดียวปฐุมรอนทวลนนกระดูจู่โทนสปีดเลวอลลุ่มสงจังขันยามีกันอินเบียกเขียนกันโตนสิรเขียนกันทิลสอยข้าอฟียเราเบทเฮนี่เอ็นทีนั้นทิลเทรนขัดชวนทนทูเดกันสอยชวนอันอินเบียกนัดตรงก็มาชวนสอยตู้โอรีอังเดียวหันเชียร์คันมีริลรูดเนเบทเฮนี่จุดเตียงที่ชวนมูวี่เตปกันทนทูเตปกันเชียร์ขัดเตียงคันสอยตู้มีเสียเลยดานสิรคันตรงทุกดานตุลค่ะโตนค่ะเชียร์เบทเฮนี่ขัดเตียงเซลคันคลาสรูมเตปเทมาnovel เตดราม่าเตปกันเราใส่เทขัดตาคันลุงเชียร์ทักเดียวไล่ชวนโอเตกันหันติโซยเดียวว่ามีหีบนันเตมีอันเชียร์เทนันเตขัดเตียงเดียวคันโตนสิรคันมีกันเดียกับพวกคันทิลตั้มตักกงโรค่ะสุเบทเฮนี่เอ็นตีนั้นมังไงนัทถูไม่ปาเลไม่เจเราอินไงจงตาเสมังไงนัทถูค่ะริงเดียวว่าเองขัดเตียงวัดสอยเอาคุยบักไอชวนโอยเดียวสับปะมีริลรุนเนเสียสอยเทดานเขาจูบางชนขัดเตียงคันโตนสิรคันกันทิลสอยค่ะeffective นะ effective เราเบทเฮติค่ะปอยโมนี่จวนสปีดเขาเลตานี่เอ็นตีนั้นมีเทรนขัดจุดตรงรังเดียวเต้นเราเทตาขัดตาคันอินเวนเวง่ายขึ้นนั่นนี่ public speaking เตปนิเท่าว่ามีมาถูกันสอยเตปนตรงรังลุดตุกสอยรันลุดตุกเตหีมีดังตานเครียดเทียมหาร์ทรีนะเครียดมันหาร์บุกะสุติรัวจนม่วงจางลุดตุกทิ้งกลางป้าตับชักตีตีอังไม่คลูกฟันเรยลุดตุกอังจีแต่ขัดตุนไล่ทลายแต่ชวนกันนิ่งเละบอกสีในจูบางชวนสปีดโปคาเครียดนวมโตกในคลากนวมโตกคานกันสอยเทียมตัวนี่มีกันเบียกแรงอินมีมาถูกันสอยโมวันนี้ปอินขัดยังคันสปีดขัดกันง่ายปอยโมตัวนี่รังลุดตุกันนินอมถูกบกินม่วงลุดตุกโปคันนินอมเบทเฮขัดกันสปีดขัดกันวงเทียมตัวนี่ตินวอลลุ่มรินเลรินเราจงเตปโปคันเอ็นทีนั้นซีร์ไลฟ์มาทิลกันเราสอยตาเอ็นทีนั้นนี่ขัดกันเช่นขัดชวนปกิรินง่ายเดียวเตอมันนี่ เช่นคาเตโรจูโซยเดียวสับสอยง่ายเตะขัดยังเซลคันมีทิลกันว่าหิลปวดเช่นขัดจูกันว่าหิลเตะข้ามีตั้มตะกันนี่จวนอกกีตีสานงายะมาเซมีประคัดเจ้านี่จวนโซยเดียวสับเป็นมีดังเครียดกันดูแล้วจนขัดยังเซลคันทุรุกเตะเพยจนเบงบุลาเฮียลปกันหิลเตะขัดยังคันอาวลูมาโปค่ะกัน adjust เทียมตัวนี้ตีไลค่ะข้ามีปฐุมค่ะปอยโมเอ็มมาอีจวนก็ขายคมนะที่ไม่รักปอยโมจวนทิลตั้มตักใส่ตัวเรารัวคันมีกันอินเบียกต้นนะ communication นะปอยโมเดียวชวนประคัดนะชวนตุงเอกันว่าเบียกข้ากันเชียงตัวนี้ตุงเอกันทิลบัดหิลดูข้ากันเชียงตัวนี้มาเงี้ยเล่มาพุทธร์คุมอุปโตลำเตะขัดยังอันนี้ชวนกันเบงทัลเราเต้นเรานี่เทกันโอกันตีรินังไงจางอมเทจุดตีรัวจนโนปังกันออกมาโนปังซิงทิลกันสวยนี่ชวนกันทิลสวยโปกันโนปังเรียดเทียมตัวโซงินกันสวยตัวนี้จุดยังเซลชวนมีมาถูกันสวยนี่ชวนกันทุสวยง่ายแค่ตัวเด็กทลายนี่ชวนทลายมิลินจุดยังเซลชวนทิ้งกลางมินนี่ชวนสับตรงให้หมดทิลเรียดเทียมฮาร์เดียวว่าสวยเจ้าไอจนอันเรียดเทียมมิละเอ็นทีนับเปกเตะขัดยังคันตุงเงกันเบียกตู้เนนังเงทิลกันสวยที่ครับปอยโมเอ็มมันนี่ที่ชวนปฏินาชวนเองเงกันสวยที่ครับปอยโมเลบกันนี่เองอังปนอีสวยทรายน์กันอกกี้เตปอดิกเซกันทิลสวยกันเรียดเทียมเนี่ยเราจนอมเสียมเรานี่จูบังจนเองเงกันสวยที่ค่ะอันเรียดตัวนี่อันเรียดนั่นตัวชวนกันทิลสวยค่ะเฟียตัวนี่กันทิลสวยอากันเชียงตัวนี่อ่ะสวยตู้เบอร์ปนกันเชียนเราจูอ่างง่ายแค่ตัวชวนเฟียเราหวังจูบังจนเองเงกันสวยเองเงอีทิลสวยค่ะอีเชียงตัวนี่อ่ะอีทิลหิลเฟียตัวซิลไลซิงไงสวยนี่มั้งมีปุยซิงไงสวยนี่มั้งอีฟ้าเตจิลนานี่มั้งข้างสงอากันเองเงอีสวยค่ะเชียงตัวนี่ตั้มตักจุดที่นั้นสวยตัวอันทุเลอุยเบงอาหินตัวเราเราอันเตียงเดียวกันเองเงสวยตุ่มเบอร์คลิปป้าเคนเองเงสวยเบอร์ที่พวกกันเฟียดเราที่อมทรีนั่นนี่จูบังชวนเองเงกันสวยเองเงกันวัดดิลิเวอร์คันกันเชียงตัวนี่ปฐุมน่าชวนค่อยมุนาเงตีเด็กค่ะปอยโมนี่กันสวยนับมุนาจิรคันอีอาวรินตัวเงสวยตัวเงเบงบุลาสวยสับว่าสวยตัวเงมีสิ่งสวยนี่ชวนตับฉักตีกันนี่เราตีเตะเฟียตัวขัดเตียงคันกันว่าสวยนับมุนค่ะเบียกอินนี่ชวนเบียกอินตรงบังโอค่ะกันเคลียร์เทียมตัวนี่สุดเตียงเจ้าจนซิลไลซิงอ่ะชวนซิลไลเตะเฟียเทียมตัวทรงอินอัพมุนาจิรคันกันทุสวยค่ะกันตรงกำกันอวดมันตัวโปกกันทั้งเทียมเทตัวนี่ตีนข้างสงขันอภัยหมดสู่อินเฟียเทียมต้นนั่นเซลขันนี่อีตูปอเบียละตูปอนมินเบียเซอินเฟียเทียมต้นนักคอมมิวนิเคชันนั่นอภัยหมดเบรนี่สู่บางส่วนอีอินเฟียเทียมต้นนั่นตัวส่วนอีnon-verbal พวกอภัยหมดเดียวตานี่กันมิดเมงาซิร์เตกันเจเซียซิร์เตเงกันอมดานกันเมลลันดานกันเมลกันเมลปุดดานครั้งกันถิ่นริมเงี้ยกันลุงโอยเงี้ยกันขัดเตียงสงถ้ากันอินเฟียเทียมต้นข้าง่ายนี่ตีนมิโซเตมิโซหันสวยลุดล็อกได้ละเอ็นที่นั้นมิโซรามาพอยมิโซรามซิมเตะพอเห็นกันตรงคลุกได้อินอังโลตานี่สุดท้ายส่วน communication เก็บอมเราเทน่าเบิร์จูอินเฟียเทียมต้นตัวนี่มีอินอัดตรงเราไปเดียวปนดุยแค่ง่ายเราคิลมีนี่โมติเพลโปงไงเราอันตรงคลูก็สิรคันค่อยลำโชกเนี่ยติดโปกันแค่เทมาเชคตาคันอินเฟียเทียมต้นข้าปอยโมเบรนี่มีเราวัก correct สุดข้าอัดรูเบรเราlanguage กันสิรจน grammar dictate syntax word formation สงข้างข้าปอยโมน้ำเยอะไม่มาเซมีเนี่ยกันอินเบียกต้นนัดส่วน grammar dictate ทับปัสสอยเคลข้างไงเราปอยโมเบรจุ communication นัดส่วนกันอินเฟียเทียมต้นนั่นไล่คันนี่ส่วนบางส่วนมีตรงดิกเรา correct ชุดเตะจุดที่ชวนที่เราตีเร่งอังคามินมินนิ่งไม่นี่ช่วยชวนกันเรียดเทียมต้นนะคะจุมีจุสวยตุ้มจุมีจุอัศยนี่ที่กันเราเรียดเทียมต้นนะคะปอยโมนี่เอ็นที่นั้นซิมลำเดียวโซตาลุงเลยเปลี่ยนละมาที่เป็นจนนั้นตรงคลุกเตเราดังตัวมาโอนตาขัดยังเสียพวกขันอินนุยไม่เราวินเงี้ยเฟียมทัวหันอินเฟียมจ้างชัวมังมาเสขัดยังนี่เราอินนุยโซเลอินเดียวโซไม่เราวินจุสวยนั่นนี่นั่นตีเทข้างไงนี่เอ็นที่นั้นกันตรงโปวัดครั้งกันเฟียดานี่นังเราตาลามควงเตโปโซละมาชวนนั้นสวยดานันดังขัดยังคันทิลตั้มตักกันสวยดานอินอังเราโอมันนี่ข้างสงข้าอินเฟียเทียมต้นไม้ตัวนี่กันขั้วชวนจุดติดชวนกันติดทรินกันเฮ็ดมาละมาชวนจุดติดชวนกันติดทรินสีมาชวนจุดติดชวนกันติดทรินขัดเตียอินเฮียลไอชวนซุมีอสวยตุ่มนะจุอสวยนี่ตีกันอินเฟียเทียมต้นค่ะปอยโมมันนี่ทิ้งฟังมาเฮลมากันตีข้าโซละมา นูดนูนพอเราตีเสทิ้งฟังมาสวยนานี่จุดเทียกันเราอินเฟียเทียมต้นจนขตากันcommunication barrier กัน solve เทโดนนี่จุดยังนี่ละว่าเองไอ้สวยตุ่มจุดมังเวไม่แต่เจ็ดเทียกเกยมานี่เซนตระอินดามีดังกันอวดดูซองว่ามันตีกันตุ่มนักขันเก็บอาเซียมาอินปุ่มขัดนายอินเงยเรานั่นเตะตรงจุนจางอ่ะตั้มตะกะเองอินลุงรัวเรานั่นชิงเทนี่จู่บางส่วนอินเฟียเทียมต้นนะครับปุยโมเบรนี่มีเจ้าจู่กันสวยจีน่ะนำเปียงครั้งกันออกมาเจ้าหน้าที่เปียงครั้งขตาขันจิเปียงครั้งขันตรงขันเดปนเราในเวียข้างส่งอาคารกันว่าเฟียปุยเวกเทเรานี่ปนกันว่าอินเฟียเทียมต้นตัวนี้อัตรงโอนดานเตอัตรงทุกดานเตข้างส่งอินลุยเละขเตียงข้าอัดจูเลมแล้วว่าตินลุเซตรงตัวนักกันตรงมันเมกฮีมีเจ้าตรงเตียกันปมกันอาจิดิงจู่เรานี่รัวเฮียนเฮมิตรงจิเปียงไล่ตรงอันนี้โมมาตรงอันนี้โมรัลเตตรงแข็งปอยข้างค่ะมีเจ้าตรงเปียงอันนี้ตีกันอินปมเทียมอีน้ำดังตรงตะเวียว่าไงล่ะว่ามีเจ้าตรงหัวสักนานักันอินโปลูเทียมเตปค่ะอปอยโมอันนี้ตีค่ะกันสวยเลยตัวตินตรงกำที่ปันฟิล์มคุรังไอมีกันเบียเขียนหัวเตะมีริลรูกันตินนั่นเทียนี่มันอาร์สเลเอติเกตนี่มีนักกันอันสวยเตปกันอินซูลชาวเองอันที่นั้นมีเนี่ยกันอินเบียกันอินหัวเองมาคอมเมนต์ชาโลดนชวนมีมูดทะเลเลยไล่ให้ไว้เลยขนาดเชฟเตนี่ตัวมาชวนท้าวเราอินทีเรียลเทียอาริลรูดพอเราหาเบทรินจู่อีวัดสวยสักตัวไล่จู่วัดท้าวเวค่าอินได้โรจุตีขตีอีเราวัดตีขันจังกายนั่นเองเราอามาค่ะมีตินอินหัวอินเฟียจู่บางส่วนจู่เราว่ากันเราว่าอินคอมเมนต์เฮียนอีกันคอมมิวนิเคชันค่ะเองอัติเช็คงานเวกเทนี่เองอามาค่ะขันกันไว้ขัดอินบุนักันอินคอมเมนต์นักขันอีกันอินเฟียเร่งนัทชาโลอาเซียมเทจู่บางส่วนจู่เราตรงกำจู่เราขตียงซีค่ะมันฟิล์มคุรังไอมันอิติค่ะอีกันอินเบียกนัทจุนจางอาคารปุยโมนอิติค่ะกันสวยดัวตินทิลปุยโมเลปะขัดจุนิจินาขันชนะขันอรอนสวยตัวมิโซชวนกันอินเรเทียมต้นโฟชินจูชนะจนทุกวันชินกันเนี่ยชนะจนทุกหูชินกันเนี่ยเอ็นตีนั้นมีอินากันเลงทิลมินเราไปโดนง่ายเรากันเตียมาเสกันเรียนรู้ชวนดูชุกันดูเท้ามาเซมิโซตรงกำโมยชวนกันเฮียลเดอร์ชินนี่ข้ากันอินเรเทียมต้นตัวนี้มิโซซิงชวนมีอินก็ดูเราติขันดูเราตักกันนี่แค่เราเทอันมิดเมงสิรเตอันตรงทุกอันเฮียลดานเต้นเฮียลตักอันนี่เลนี่เราค่ะกันเรเทียมเทโดนนี่เองมาไม่โอ้ก็ดูลมก็ดูลุตุกติกนัลบอร์ฮิตซูเป็ดตูตันโปเปกันนวมเลช่วงเมื่อเราจู่บางส่วนฮันทรันเดอร์เวเดลเตหิมิโซเซียนี่ข้าอีกันอินเรียเทียมต้นตัวนี้มีอินอันดูเร่งโปก็ดูเราอันติเทขัดเตียงส่งค่ะมิโซซีงาจนกันอินเรียเทียมต้นตัวนี้สุดที่รัวเลยรอจนน้ำดังซิงาจนเสียมที่มาขันสอยากจินนารมติเตอาเซียขันอันนี้เลยแค่นี้เตียงเสียขันอเมริการำอังเซียจินน่าขจวนก็ดูเราตีขัดจีเบมีจวงเรานี่อาจารย์สุก็ดูเราตีขจวนมีขจวนดูเราตักกันง่ายจู่บางส่วนน้ำดังซิงาจนขัดเตียงมิโซซีค่ะกันมันเทียมขัดถูกเท่ามาเซมิโซซิงาจวนมีอินตรงกำโมยาหอยหอมนาก็ดูเราอันเตียงจีขันดูเราตักเฮเราเทขัดเตียงจีค่ะกันอินเฟียเทียมต้นค่ะปอยโมมันนี่ติดส่วนข้างปอยครั้งกรอนสอยาขันดังตั้มตักโปมังกระดูดกโดนตงเองพวกนี้เซตัวนักกันอินเบียกนักขันริเตนโปเตลติกันเฟียอังกฤษมิโซคอร์เฮาจวนอินเฟตงริเตนเตโปwriting skills te po kanjira good writing ang chi te po kanjira khanga khan chi tam taka oma enge uat fiat tama poimo ziate tin ni tin notebook a uat poimo deu te chin chia tool ziate tin kan thil soi tu le ziat tu reng clearly le logically angai tu angai thu te tin enge mo thil pakhat kan soi le du lok chu public speaking te po ni thei mi ma thil kan soi po ni thei thil reng a hen chen kha chu in la tong kam thiamกันตุ้มเละลุตุกทรีน่าให้ฮีมีดังตานอันนี้นมได้ไทยส่วนบางส่วนกันสวยนักมุนเละหุ่นจิรินกันทิลเสียเละที่อจิรินตรงกำเทียมอุจวกตุ่มหิงไงเหลี่ยมหรือว่าหุ่นเละมุนข้ากันเคลียร์เทียมตัวนี้น้องปังซิงทุยสอยไอ้เงาไม่อ้วนปุยจังสุยละมาอุปตรงตักินตีเวลตัวข้างไงหรือว่าน้องปังซิงไอ้สอยนี่จงขัดเตียงค่ะปังไงตะกสอยไม่ตัวนี้จุดเตียงเจ้าจวนไว้มีเจ้าตรงเทียมสอยเบียนี่จวนอวดบิรูเดวว่ามันแค่ไงแล้วอาเชียเทียมตัวมันไม่ตัวนี้สุดยังเซลส่วนกันทิลเสียเลยกันสวยนักมุนจิรคานทางที่เขากันเคลียร์เทียมตัวนี้ที่เขากันสวยดูบอกว่า chuti ruale ro chuan thil reng renga hian literature zonga kan ngai tu pon rhetoric hi poimo em ani public speaking a thei chon mi vatne thei riau na tur hian min thu soi thiam na thuru thin nei thina chunga te chuan enge uat man tur bik te kan voice ti danglam dan tur te aton tur te khang zong zong kha thiam bik hin om thina ni mizo zinga chuan James do khu mate kan ria wa nei tluanga te pon ninga ma fa hau na te po enga tinge a zia le at soyan thiam ko pan ti chuan an thil soi kha an chianga an chian ba ka an soi na tur mun an chianga chuta chuan a thuk dan tur te an thiam ema khatiang khan thiam takin miril ru ne thei tur khan in minute nga chung le post soi se an tu soi kha miril ruat lanat pik thin ni chuwang chuan khatiang kom mi ma thu kan soi ni mo mi kan va diam mo mi ne thei riau na tur chuan uat kan riat nem te nga ya tin kan man a hun taka man tur te a thuk dik taka thuk tur te hatiang zong zong kha poimo ema tin namdang trong English thiam po tha Hindi thiam po tha tu ta chuan a poimo bera chon khang kan thiam kha kan va soi chua don khan alo ngai thatu te hriat thiam na kha poimo berani then kha chuan in lak ril te in lak thiam te kan dua philosophy ril pui kan soya chu chuan te kan put fowa ma se a ngai thatu kan thu soi lo chiar lo ngai thatu emo lo chiar tu te an hriat thiam chong lo chuan om zia om lo ni dar ri mai ang khani chuwang chuan kan thu soi ngai thatu te kan thil chiar ngai lo chiar tu kan thil zia lo chiar tu ten an hriat thiam na kha poimo ber English kan kurani pon mizo tonga han soi fia tel zeu ang chi te khatiang zel khan a om zia soi fia nuan put pe khana fia bi kani khang te kha literature lama in mangle mang che lo te pon kan hriat anga ya a top bera chon kan soi du chu bible ina in trong ka chuak chu chia al niro se atiang deu khan trong kam hoi hom mi ta na don son nuam enge ngei om deu in il sen na trong kam ang chi te mi mu sit na trong kam deu so trong kam ang chi te pum pel pramila chia al mi ta na don son nuam mi tan apoi theng em ti ngai tua chungin trong chuakila ngai thatu te ta na don son nuam zong khan thil soila tin kan soi chu ma in kan thu soi tu kha kan ngai tua thot turani midang ta na poi theng em miril ruan na theng em mizo upa te chuan trong kam tha in siala man an lo ti thina khatiang khan trong kam tha hian miril ru ne thea chuti role ro chona le lama che khan I trong kam in sai ngala deng kliak ten ti thina ni trong kam khan thil na sat ka thlen thei thil thatak a thlen thei walin a negative lama chuan miril ru atina in sai ngal hial po deng kliak thei ni chuwang chuan kan trong kam hi kan pim khur em turani ti kha kan soi du ni ole kalome
ole sar opia kan lom hle me in bua sai na te tha a clear tu te pon kan lok pui nge kan be sei ani chuan in mi ma thu kan soin mi ta kan en kal turani mo ai context se ama poi mo zia te kha kan sia a in chung te noi lam te en dei lo turani chuan in mi thiam te nan soi dan chuan in chong hi minute khata wat za som ni atanga za som nga soi man tur ti ania ma se ke ni mi zo te chu kan chong muanga chu bang chuan minute khata wat za vel soi man tur ti soi man thei ila acha ani chuan in okia po khanin san le aniam hun oma ma ro chu oki ngai puta thil kan soi te chuan ngai thak te lo shi omani tiro mut te lo chuak mai thina kan mut thu mai thina ni chu bang chuan in oki man dan kan thiam lo chuan in kan communication kha acha thei don lo ani chuan in chong hi nam tin in chong kan nei thewani mi zo te sap te mi ngo kan ti te mi hang te mo chong sang kan nei a an thu le hla kan chiara chang te han an culture te an tradition te kan sha thei pha china tin kumzatam liam ta mi William Shakespeare te William Wordsworth te P.B. Shelley te John Keats te po an thu le hla te kan chiara changin enge ang thu le hla nge an ti chwa ti te kan sha thei pha china chu bang chuan zia khi poimo em ani he ta India ram kil khor taka changpon an thu le hla te kan lo tui puin kan lo zir puin a sove em china chu bang chuan zia khi poimo zia khi rong bol na tan po poimo ni mel sing chuanga kan kal thei lo ni pon kan thu ziak te chu a thleng thei ani chu bang chuan zia khi pathian rong bol na atan po apoi moi na changkai em ani ole tuna chuan Miss VLE in adu du soi turin hun ilo peng ule
Professor PKC te sar bulate sar OP ten communication skill tam tak anon soi to chu wang chuan soi tam vak patum lawa ke chuan thu tha tak tak khang ho zong zong anon soi to zong zong kha kan zom ani chuan kan zom tur zong zong chu an soi chuak to ti ati the ni amaro chu tlem te karon soi venga mishing kan communicate na hiang communication chu kan sha dangin thil kan in sha ton na kan in bo ton na kha kha ni me antina che zia ni mo tong kam ni mo man ro eng mo phone mo tu chi sang sang khang zong zong kan in communicate na kan in sha bo ton the na ang chi kha ni me ta chu wang chuan mishing kan in communicate that don chuan an ron soi to ang khan chi sang sang he miss te sarten an ron soi no to khata tang khan kan sha tangin kan trong kam te kan che zia te apoi mo chu tirwal chuan he tu nakal chuak tu graduate turin nia thil pakhat poi mo tia soi ve ka du chu na dil turin in chua chuan graduate in ni to chuan na chi sang sang MA zom lo tam po na be sei tur le na enge moni competitive mo thil chi sang sang be sei to turin ni chawdo na chung ho huna chuan intinan communication tha intinan poya mo interview do na chu interview na tur interviewer le kami ne na in communicate that na tura thil poi mo ka ti de tlem zong karon soinga chu ta chuan apoi mo bera chuan mani na kan lo experience to atang kun khatianga enge mo na kan dil mo ko yam enge mo kan vatia khang ho official ho ne na kanin communicate that don cha apoi mo bera chuan im enge pe mani kha kan lan dan kha kan lang smart turania in kanin cheidana kan dress code ta po khang zong zong a khan antan enge fa mu nuam en nuam mu nuam ang chile rim zong zong a te po mo rim tuiru tu kha chu tha chuang lawa amai ro chu enge ma mu shom le rim po dik lo nga ringot kan ni khan chuang kan communication kha athalo nga ringot dona khang zong zong a te po khan ke mani khang a te po khan in enge kan landan kan look appearance kha apoi mo ta atin chu ba ka chuan an soi le thin angin thil reng interview kan nei ni mo ka tenga kan nei dong khan kan communication a that don chuan an mani te an mita kan en turani ti kha poi mo ti kan soi le tin chu ba ka kan mel mang kan mel fa alhimin enge mu nuam kan ni turani china suyang khan kan mel mang hian kan chungril nun atar lang veka chuta tang chuanin mishing engang mel nge kan ni ti kha an the theingal don an just theingal don chu wang chuan mel mu nuam mel him kha kan put angai ni tin chu ba ka confident kan nei apoi mo a enga ma kan thil kan interview ture mo enge mo kan ti tura kan interview na tura kan confident ha lo ri kan confident lo ha ri ngot khan chuan kan in kara khang communication kha thadon lawa an zo na te mo enge mo chiang lo nei noya kan khan chuan enge ma mai kan in communicate na kha cheri ngot ni tu wang chuan confi apoi mo tim emi ba ka chung ba ka chuan thil tam tak poi mo tam tak onga tin enge mishing communication thatur chuan ka soile thin angin interview na ther lawa po sar opina soyang khan in shat thiam na apoi mo wa thian ho ji nga ni mo chung ko apo ni thowa ko ya po kan kal donin mi te thin lunga kan batlang na don chuan mi enge kan communicate that don chuan ke mani kan poi mo a in laksana in ti enge modang lambing ni khan tu ma he kan ba communicate thatheilo chu wang chuan ke mani ma mi po nuam le mi biak nuam mi ne jonga kan phut kha apoi mo ni tin thil pakhat ka soile du chu kan chen na mun le kan kal na muna tu po ina min nela min po theina tur chuan an ni na ang an chen na ni mo an kho sak zia ni mo an tung mo kan va in adapt thiam ve ngai ni kan va in zir thiam nga ya an ele in po kan du vak lo ni pon min lo pe kan ni chuang kan e thei mi tu ni an ti dam phung kha kan va zir thiam tu ni chumi khatianga an che ja phung li an ni dam phung kan va in zir thiama kan va ve theya kan thei lo chung chung po kan ti thei chuan an mani in ner na le in po na kha khan aron hring ani aron siama chu chu thil poi mo tak ani boka tin pakhat chak soi lenga mihring ina enge communication kan nei thana tura poi mo ber pakha chu tong ani khoya po kal do ni la ram danga kal do ni la le Mizoram chung nge ya po mar la ma po chim la ma po kal do ni la an tong man ang chi khatiang ka kan man thiam chuan kan tong ang mang chi le kan tong ang khati ang lo om khan chuanin inga ma mai kan in po nga ringota vairam sabram ang chi ya po Mizo tong mang pakhat ka mu chuan inga ma mai ka po nga ringot chu wang chuan apoi mo khop mei language mo tong kan ti chu wang chuan tong sang sang kha kan thiam tam apoi mo ti na ni chu Mizo tong mei ba ka tong dang mi communication tha kan nei don chuan khang kha tong kan thiam tam apoi mo a tong kha kan vocal na tur te khang ka kan zir apoi mo ni chu chu ka soi ve du ni me ro se on
ole miss vle kan lom hle me kha thu chatak zom ngei tur tun huna kan zom tur thil chatak tak min shila ni in cheina hi apoi mo e me ma mi ma kan interview don te mo phe chon kan in cheina te hi kan uluk te poi mo e me ma ni mi in kan thu soi a in kan in cheina te kha an lo en du zo kan mi mit te lo la jok theya chu bang chuan in in cheina hi apoi mo atin me cha te chu makeup te po a hun le muna in chei thiam noi thiam te kha poi mo ni film khur angai ni ole ti khanin kan panel te changin kan han ngai thazoba tuna zirlai le zirtir tu mi ron tel pui tu te changin nangmani experience emo comments pe du emo zona zo du te tan hun kan honganga zona te po zo cheu kan tum don ya ole tuna zona hun ilo hongang ole
Miss heta lo mizo department changin I masen kan ya chanin I lo nya I language hi apoi mo ka tia chanin I hei mizo kan ni chuan mizo nge ya thu soi tiang ve te kha kha acha ka tia chanin zo na pakhat ka nei ve a chu chu I lo kan chung mizo chung hi I h du la khanin til hanita se I tun ai hian civil service tiang te hetiang hian kan tlim tam chu khi in ring em tiang welcome lo soi sak lo chan sak la
Miss in mute
ole ma se ni kan lo me tuna azona kha zona poimo takani a ke ni mizo department po ina kan ngai poimo tur le zona tur om takaron zo ta kan lom hle me kan panel te chang khanin tunge han chang ang on karon sum beng
tối tế
sir in unmute in mute
sorry thì khá là phiệt thêm
shit he
tối tên cần sang nga nia nghe h set dula mizo trong da hi lok na tur tam taka theyanga kan in zir tir na sa soi warzel turania central service ania mothil dang danga po mizo te tan ham than na tam tak king tel theyania chu nia central service ate po kan trong him Indian nam tronga 8 schedule hen tel ni se chuan service rang ate po luna chan su thale chualin rin oma ma se la lu miau lo wang le kan lo lut po ni se tumna tak tak om lo chon kan tling kher lo the yang po ni se kha churin thu ania lut se chu du thu samani ti khan kan changa chu ti rol chon apoi mo ber chu tun ma tangin sang kha zako somnga somruk chho kan mi pasa te kan pa mi poi kalta te ti mayang khang tam tak po kha India rama 8 schedule mi zo tong da mi lo hian central service rang IAS IFS an lo ni na sa to ni han lo in siak tling na sa to interview ha tak an lo thing to ni chuwang chuan kha ringot kha ani ber lowa apoi mo bera chuan ami hringa kan poimo bera kan tumna tak khan fil berani chuwang chuan tun ma tang to in mizo zinga tam tak central service an lo in ziak ting to an lo ni thei to chuwang chuan lani chiari lo po ni se 8 schedule mizo tong ida po ni lo se tumna tak om chona thei ani ti kha kan soi kai tel du bokani kalome
kami dùng trang hay cả lâu xây về là còn nhà ấy schedule là cần trong hi xe lang cho nên ham chơi là chơi sang khá cần đông ang tị khá rin đàn khá cho anh nia ama rồi cho anh lâu tôi nó sar opina rồi sẽ ang khá nên anh lâu nhau lâu và yên anh lâu ngày đàn cho anh đi đi lại khá kan ngày toán này han yan dọc sĩ xe cho cái khóc này anh chân cho hemi cần trong lâu vàng kan tling lo ti ang zo kan ngai to ni chung zong cho nên en competitive exams pon ni se central lampang phe ka chu be se lo zo ki la tha in ka sha tin sang kha zakwa samsari le paruka khanin to prevent thar mi kha an hetlaya to prevent thar primary school chu kha IAS kha king the kat me ni Mizoram kha milaya an lo MCS level kha MCS kha ani lawa khang hon lai khanin MCS kha atling lawa Mizoram khan administrative service kha atling lawa master central service kha atling ani tichuanin Mizo school chwa kani tiang cha central service atling theya sang kha zakwa samsari le pakwa amol lung thu khwa changan an lo central service atling ombokani chu tiang chanin kan soidon chuanin manlai mi ho kha Mizo school la zir chwa thingtlang changte le har sa tak an lo re thei tak le khazir chwa ka khatya nga inziak tling kha an omsia khoilai khane kan tan na ti la ya kha kan first day po khani kan he finishing school kan masabera khanin ani masabera khanin PLV nai po khan aron sei kha khoya hianin ngai le kan tan le ti hi kanin en chian le na sathi angai zo kin ka sha ke ma chuanin tin kan chong hi trong ringot kha trong kam chwak ringot kha tok lova azia te kha kan thiam ngai ni tin rongbon le zau zok kan chwak do ani si chuani midang trong te mi ti dan te kan ba shata kan ba shat wa kan do in tap lo chama kan mi adak chama apoi ma en men ani lo san pason te kan tiang mo tin hi lagyaw me tin viral mata ko kini mo kan hata kan research hin so tachanin vai thak ve min chu viral ma kan han kala vai tong kan thiam lo khata an in che dan te an tam zia kal phun te ngai to nya lo le ke mani do dan chong che wat here so kan su kala ma se kan sha to so mizo te hi to na po kan population atlem em nei ta hetilaya India mar saka raktero te la kan in mor khoma ye chu ta chanin kan ve ani ti po hi India ram mun za zo ka han an shelo ni chu ti khop chan kan da tle mani kan da thwak tam lo em nei ta so ma chanin mi rama kan lo om chan mi si kan lo om ve chanin as ko pe to ram sei ka ko mo nei ka sha mi ti dan te mi chong dan te kan ra zir ve kan be in ta lo khanin an ma ni ya khanin nge kan tiang min lo ngai sang zo kin min lo ngai na zo kin tin chung hun danga le ha kan zir lai to po mizo ni tema shom dok la chin chu kan sei lo kanga kan nam kan in ngai na a lo mom lu tu ka kan chong po kan ngai sa a lo mom lu tu ka ni ama ro chu nam dang ho zi na hian in kan om fo ta enterna naga an ni ma naga hi ke mani ang de le ka lu lian ve de yan ni ama ro chu ke ni ai chang tlem chuan in an chong te po alamin an lo noi la ta pan pe the tho ta mi zing om dan an thiama naga te ni mo ba yan ni a mo ala me te te po ta se mi som vel om tai la ke ma chia mizo misham nam dang om tai la an chongin anin ngai lo re ni sap chongin ka shat ve thei tu rangin anin bia anga ti chuanin anin bia entena an chongin lo in bidon ta se min na sha thiam lo ro chiang ka tiang chu kan se ya i min na sha thiam lo ro kan chongin kan han chonge ti la chang kan shi ta ni kan nam ve cha ni mi alo mi nam dang zinga nam dang som zinga zo tai la mizo chongin kan ni me ni min anh nghe bình đâu vậy ngõ trong mặt vài thà bé tự vậy sự cắn lầu rê về thế nhỉ cắn lầu rê giống như nghe bọn mình giờ vài thà cả nhà cái lai ăn này năm tháng sinh ngạo hen ôm đàn lai thì cái lai ăn thêm cho cắn chuyện bé đâu chỉ nên cái sự cho số mà sẽ ăn mà cắn vào anh nhỉ thì lần kia nó tuổi xưa nên ăn trong chúng ta ăn để cắn vào thiệt thà ngoài vậy mà anh nhỉ nó cái gì đó là so communication apa win apa mà đi khai là sẽ tổ cái tin cái đấy anh không phải để học qua nó sẽ xuân xuân dễ là communication là cho nên cái mà đi rằng bằng được anh đi bằng cái việc đăng khắp communicate at the end cái này cái này share thiam tuần thì nó tự tan cho nên mình đăng cái ngày sắc cái thành phong đó rằng sẽ khá ngày sắc nó là ya khắp communication à cho anh đi em đi so bằng cho nên ya lâu tin thì cho là khăn thì bạc cái cái mà đi là atop na việc na khăn thì bạc cái sẽ không có một cái từ ra kan trong lo lai pen trong kam achwa lo lai pen kan taksa hian a communicate ri ngani to sei ri ngani ati tlat me ni so bang chani kan mit me nga te kan he ton atbak ti han kalo te bak ta khatia ang remote te po kha khan thil am ta ka sei ve te ni ka ton of voice at po kan oki sang da na te ka trong ran da na te ka trong muan da na ta ka tyang chang so khan thil am ta ka sei ni so bang chani communication skills kan nei tha kan nei don chuanin kan ma communicate te khani min che thia bin sha thia the le tur ta le min lo pom the ni tur ta de kan in pole chuso kan nei the le tur ta mi dang ba ngai sak na la ya ka binang ba ngai pui mo na la ya kha mulia ni la pui mo in sha chu bang chon tu na po IS kan ni the lo chan chu h du la kan chong a om lo wang ti la ya kha kum tam tak chung kha om to lo ma se IS kan thau ni khoya mình khan kan ta na la ya so man ni ya nga ya ge chwan e chitu ka ba se tia a tel la ge ka tin la ba ni lo a se e chitu ge tel na so entina na manipur la me de trong bo kan example ka se la ka me de trong hi kan le kha kan zira trong to e chitu la da tu na sa ta ka mai ku yaแต่พอมันเป็นประเด็นปันกันจะได้มีเราจะมีแฟนกันจะขัดแย้งที่พอกันเดินซาสกูลแต่พอหายเหี้ยกับปะขัดแย้งในเอชิตัวในตัวรัชนันอันนั้นวิ่งใหญ่แค่ใน central service อันตำเนียมจองเราไม่ได้หัวหินอันตำเนียมเรามา central service หลังตำมันพูดรัชนันมันพูดใจเด็กเป็นพวกที่อันตำจองกันในที่ไล่กันเสียแล้ว
ครับไหมถ้ากันใส่เวลก็ออกลายแต่ค่ะเนี่ยไอ้ที่สองpoint อามิโซตรงขันเหล่าเรียกพวกนี้ละอันน่าตักทอนตัวเขาจะทราบตรงทั่วขโมยนี่โดนนะส่วนอินมิโซว่ากันเสียฟังอ่ะอินดูสักนู้จัวแค่โมกันหลุดตำนะตัวไล่เขาจะUPSC ขันเวงทวินกันเองอ่ะคุณกัลตักกาส่วนอินส่วนอินเขาไล่เขาจะเงี้ยนี่ที่ละซัมซุงไม่นี่กันเสียตินเนี่ยกันเบลเลดูชุ communication เนี่ยตัวกันใช้ skill แล้วนี่ skills เนี่ยskill ละค่ะกันใช้นี่ที่นักการ resource person นี่นะใช้ art เนี่ยอามาเราจะ develop เทนี่ injure เทนี่ที่ซึ่งวันนี้ communicate โดนชวนนี่ a basic อ่ะพอยมั่วซะเบอร์ชุตรงขันนี่ริมมาอ่ะมิโซตรงอันนี้มั่วเองทราบตรงอันนี้มั่วซึ่งวันตรงข้ากันเทียมพอตั้งไงมาอ่ะเฮต้า verbal non-verbal ที่เด็กเขาจะก็ใช้กายเราว่า gesture ที่เด็ก facial expression ที่เด็กตรงข้าอันนี้ริมมาอ่ะซึ่งวันตรงเบราข้ากันเทียมมาป่วยมั่วทราบตรงอันนี้มั่วฮินดีอันนี้มั่วจุดกันใส่ดูชุมันนี่ interview skills an ti kha toite ka ngai tha elvinai khan thought management na tia kha apoi mo khop maya i thil kan soi tur ngai tua arrange zung thiam na kha hei tunma kan leadership training kan kal thina an soi chu thu soi don te thil soi don te tin thu puan don te a b c awmani an ti thina audible brief clear an tia a hriat thei turani a ring thatok turani interview na te po ring takin interview board member hriat thei turin a hre turani tin thu puang kan niam mo thu soi kan ni pon an hre turani tin ni china kan ngai thaka po a brief turani kan thil soi hi mo tin engeni a chiang turani a clear turani kan point kha ti te khania kan thian pa central service a thinga class mate ania MZT wa register te boron ni do chutia Mizoram history and soiten ti maya interview hun toy te history han soi khachu brief do point by point a khatia han aren zung khangaya a har ka ti khop maya tia khatiang chi kha communication thatur chonin kan communicate ten kan thil soi riat do thiam dan tur chonin a hriat thei turani a ring thang a hriat theianga tin kan rem felanga kan thil soi tur te po hei an soi thina tu soi don chuanin angani huat huai hau ten ti thina enge kan soi tu ma kha engwanga soi ngai nge engtin nge kan thil soi kha kan ti hlo tinang mo khatiang khan kan thu soi tu ra kha mi kan va communicate don chuanin fel takin kan rem turani i ti thin hian ya i thil tam tak kha kan ngai thak te kha chu polite respectful ti te mendaran ticket kan ngai tha to thil in zom mai ni ya chuwangin communication hi skill nei tur chuan a basic a chuanin trong kha poimo ta non verbal te kha chu kan thiam sa tuna kan soyang khanin heta mi thu soi kan ngai thadona attention kan pe ni ti hriat nana kan taksa kan poster dan te an eye contact kan nei dan tur te khang te kha communication atana thil poimo nia hei communication skills rim hi internet ate khan en ula management zirna te po hian lo zirna sakhop maya engeni nang ni po pol hruai tu te point lani thei pol hruai tu ni mai thei in hnuai mi te in member te ne na engeni decision making turatana in po that communication nei that te kha apoi mo mai ni pol hruai tu te in lani pai chun tin nu le pa tur te in lani na kina fa te ne na communication gap a chuanin administration kha fel thelo renga chuwang khanga te po khanin heng communication skills sahi kan nei that apoi mo a chuwangin kan hun bulaka soyang khanin voina kan topic te ang te nimin lama mi te le adanga mi te po ni tina kan man mol tur a then chu na kan dil do na kan man mal tur a then chu nun ho na kan man tur a then chu pol hruai tu mo khoya mo member kan fani ve mo khurna kan ya han man hal mai theite ani chung chu ania wang chuan kan zirlai kan lecture ngai kha khi apoi mo em ani ti kha a top nan ke mal lama kan bel le du ni o
ole kan panelist le Miss Remy IQS ya kan ho tu du ten kha thatak ta kan soya e schedule chungchang ma sen zo na kha kan chang ve lokanga kan soi ve lokanga e schedule a hian tu na hian in chong som ni le pa ni a me ka ni tu na hian kha si te ga ro te hian in e schedule an chong tel tur hian in an buai puya le chong sang mang te hian in tel du hian in an buai puina se me ma Mizo te po he Mizo Academy of Letters kan tiamal kan tia heng te po hian in nasa takin an beya Chief Minister ne na le kha te thelu tin Chief Minister te mo in central lama sei tur te pon an nge na tin central wai me po in kum sang kha zakwa som kwa pasari is lungdara general conference an nei chum khanin e schedule mizo chong e schedule da lut ve turan nor turin sarkara thlen ni se ti in thuan rel thu ani chutiang bokin DMZP kan tia Delhi mizo zirlai pol te pon na satakin e schedule mizo chonga alu theinan ma an la a le khabu te hialan siama tin MP te po an muchin ani chuanin Mizoram Legislative Assembly po in kumsang kha zakwa somkwa pakhat February ni somni le paruka khanin e schedule mizo chong thun ani duin lungrol takin house an lo pass to ani chung te kan ngai thla ka chang chuan e schedule mizo chong tel hi mizo mi puiten kan du zia chiang takin a hriat ani e keini mizo te aya mizo chong aya chong mang claim Kashmiri kan ti te Sanskrit kan ti te Dokri kan ti te po hi e schedule an chong hi atelani UNESCO kan tia United Nations Education Scientific and Culture Organization UNESCO hianin mizo chong hi chong thi mai tur chong boral mai tur zinga atelani mo chuwang chuan mizo nam kan claima chong mang tu kan claima chuwang chuanin h schedule mizo chong da lu hi kan ti mak bo turani ramdan pui constitution hnuaia mizo chong dan hi hum hal hi apoi mo a chulani mo chuanin e schedule mizo chong da lu a thatna tlem kan soi le anga kha ngai dan te poinang lawa amaro chu mizo nam ramle nam kan hum halna chuanin kan chong kan hum hal hi apoi mo si a mo keini mizo lo te chuanin tu ma in kan mizo chong hin min ron hum hal pui don lo chuwang chuan keini mizo te hi kan poi mo ani chuanin UPSC kan ti Union Public Service Commission a hianin kumtinin civil services exam hi abwa sei thin ani ta hianin e schedule achong somni pani zinga pakhat hi optional subject atana thlan theya hemi ni wa hianin mizo te hi schedule kan telve si lawa kan chong kha athlan ve theilawani han telve ila chuanin UPSC exam ate po mizo subject optional athlan thei dona chutianga alo thlan thei don chuan mizo te UPSC exam ate kan lo tin ve thei phana kong a in hong ve don ani tin India ram rorel na sang pahni Lok Sabha le Rajya Sabha member te hianin e schedule chong tel somni pahni te chuan an ma hi chong kha an mang thei ani keini chu kan tel lo wangin kan chong kan mang thei lo chuwang chuan e schedule chuan mizo chong hi tel ve se chuan Parliament House hianin kan MP te hian mizo chongin thuan soi ve thei to don ani ta chuanin thuan soi khanin mizo thalai te mizo chong thiam te tan na tam takalawin hong bok don ti na ni a chong det tu ten mamo dona thil tam taka changkai don ani chuanin NBT an tia National Book Trust hianin zirlai bule zirlai atana changkai le khabu te an chwa sak thina hei hi e schedule tel chong somni pani mang te hi an chwa sak thina ni chubang chuanin ziak tu te kut ha man royalty kan ti hi 20% an pe thin boka hei ziak mi te tan ham chat na chat takani ziak tu te tan man choi ngai lo le khabu chwana ni chubang chuan UPSC ringot ni lovin thil tam taka mizo ten ham chat na kan dei pha dona e schedule mizo chonga telve chuanin National Book Trust kan ti NBT a khanin NBT ten mizo chong le khabu zia kan chuanga mizo chong kha sap chong ten an le tanga sap chong le khabu te mizo chong ten tin khang e schedule tel chong somni pahni khang pang chong te po kha mizo chong ten an le dona tin national day international book fair te po India ram hum mai ni lo khovel ma mizo chong hi kan pho chuak don ani keini mizo ten kan ti lo chuan tu man min ti sak don lawa chuwang chuan e schedule mizo chong atel hi exam na atan UPSC tan chau ni lo hian thil dang tam taka hianin apoi mu ani ti kha kan shia ta tha sarkar lai pui Ministry of Culture doya hianin Sahitya Academy hi adingani chu National Academy of Letters ti ani hei hian ziak mi ti ham thatna atan ma an la thin ani chuanin tuna kan soi ei schedule chong tel somni pahni le sap chong mang le Rajasthani mang chong somni pali ti an hum halbi ka hemi changtlun nan le ama son nan na an thoka award sang te an siama tiang khanin ham chatna sang an siama keini chu atel ve lo wangin kan thu le la thiam tam takte tena an don ve thei tur kha kan dong ve thei lawani chuanin sarkar leipui in India Constitution articles athum somli le palina manga adina official language commissioner chairman ti lo chu kha e schedule chong somni pani mangte achang khanin member an lo ni china he commission hi apoi mo mema an thurel le an rom man na an siam te hi committee of parliament on official language ten an lo thlir ho le china official language commissioner heng chong somni pani mang tu te achang chawin member ruat thei ani a mizo te member kan ni ve thei lo ani e schedule kan chong hi hantel ve se chuan member te po mizo te kan ni ve na tur hian chan puina chi sang hi an sema an penasa ani ta hianin schedule language le non schedule language an thliar sang le ani ta chuanin schedule language kan ti chong somni pahni mang te khadu sak bik an ni le zel buk ani chuanin India rama hian film lama choi moina chi sang pek chwa chin ani heta po hian an han clear le a schedule language ti le non schedule language angin chuwang chuanin keini mizo te talent nei tha tak tak pho chwa cha kom tak tak India ram le khovela lar thei tur po hemi e schedule kan tel lo wang hian tam taka chuan an lang thei lo ani chuwang chuanin khang kan han soi ba ka khanin e schedule tel chong somni pahni mangte du sakna hi sarkar hianin apena sabi ke mema keini mizote kan telve lo wagin kha du sakna chi sang kha kan soiba ka po khan tam taka lo mani khang kha kan dong ve thei lo wa keini mizote chuanin kan chong kha e schedule atel lo wang ani a lo tel ve se chuanin university le board exam te zau zok le na sa zokin mizo chong zir na te bo se ninga mizo chong zir tir tu tur te nga ma zat la kan ninga India ram hun shanga mizo zir lai ten har satna chong chung zir chung changa chong dang zir chung changa an to chin po hi an tok don lawani tuna hian Guwahati University le Nehu le MZT le Manipur University hian mizo chong zir theina hi a om to chuanin e schedule mizo chong telani chuanin let link tu te lampo tam takla kan ngai nga ta khanin mizo te na chau kha achet don ani chuwang chuanin India ram chong pui schedule language zinga mizo chong hi da apoi mo me ma hi mizo mi pui tena ai lungrol taka ke kan pen po apoi mo ani tu te mo pole mo tu te mo ti chau tur ani lo keini mizo department ringot ina kan ngai to tur po ni lawa mizo mi pui tena chan kan la ka ke kan pen tla na kan in lungrol tla hi apoi mo ani ham chatna sang sarkar changa mu tur te tin mizo chong mang te kan tlema India ram le khovela mizo chong pho chwa kha apoi mo ani mo mizo chong tin namdang pon mizo chong ten lo zir phanga apoi mo mema e schedule mizo chong tel hi atel theina na chan kan lak so hi apoi mo ani ole kan panel te changin soibel du nei te kan lo mem o tin zir lai le zir tir tu min tel pui tu te chang khan zo na te alo mem o
Bis kalau saya develop dengan dah. Ini para nusa science department kan ya. Sina schedule chungsa ha kai pok ka ve memang kami chungsa ha tem kan lo sui lang ve du sai zona mem pon ni lo ba. Ta khanin schedule chungsa henin malam ha nga hen ka lo tel ve photo ta khanin các mu dan joinin schedule mi zo ka tel lo chan hi independent movement lom wang ni kan fria kan ka fe dan china chuan asan chu schedule mi zo tong tel chuan mi zo te hi India kan Indian tu kan ti la lo thona wang pakhat ni ka fria khai khana poi ka tia helai kan helai ya ke mani nam te nge tang pa helai min do tu ani do bera NGO chen katin อันละดูแล้วว่าพอจนขนาดละดูแล้วบอกว่าให้แกมานี่จงจ้างส่วนเฟรชกันจนอีเราก็มี8 schedule จงจ้างมิโซแต่ตัวกันตีจงจ้างคันนี้มิโซschedule แต่ละเฮียนี่มิโซตรงหุ่มหัลอันนี้นับปักขัดอันนี้กันตีมาเซตไลเฮียนี่อัน opposition ลำปังอันตีโดนสนับสนุนอันตีอันนั้นตีสนับสนุนschedule จริงมีเท่าที่เขาเวลตรงมั่งตัวจริงให้แต่เวลเท่าไหมเฮลัยพอให้บ่อยทักเวียวเท่าว่าเราschedule ให้มิโซตรงที่เราด่าแต่เรื่องปนนี้ละมิโซตรงให้อะไรตัวจริงแต่เวลเท่าที่ได้อันสวยตาไม่หรอกจู่มิโซตรงก็มีเขาเวลามิโซตรงพอให้มิโซเขาเวลาอะไรตัวจริงอันแต่ละชั้นก็มีอันตีด่านก็หันช่วยส่วนนี้กันzero line เท่าแต่แกมันนี่ student โนปังเท่าว่าอันนั้นติดตา zero line ค่ะ school ตรงอ่ะช่วยเองตรงอย่างมันอันนั้น hole เองมันช่วยเองตรงอย่างมันตีก็อันมันนี่อันนั้นเตนะอันนี้เดี๋ยวไม่อะแต่คันนี้กันแกมันนี่มิโซ culture ส่วนนี้มิโซเท่า English medium school อ่ะโนปังเท่ากันดูที่ช่วยนี่ตีไรค่ะอันหมู่ใหม่เวแต่เท่าว่าใครคันนี้นะบ่อยทักเวมิโซให้มาลักเทียมพอหากันที่ลำมาตัวน่ะ NGO ฉันขัดนั่นละดูแล้วอันละดูเจ้าเราฟังอินให้ independent movement เราฟังอันนี้เราฟังอันนี้ที่กันเราสวยหลังเรื่อยๆนี่ก็แล้วไหม
โอเลสวยตัวดังเดย์กันโลเมโมโซนเตโม inexperience โมคอมเมนต์สันเปดูเตกันโลเมโมโอเลตัวเราเนี่ยจงอาทิตย์เรานามาละตัวเตขจุมิโซกันนี่แค่นี้นะกันลากเราจนตัวมันมินลากปุยโดนเราว่าข้ากันเชียดอภัยโมกันดินลุงรัวละเกกันเป็นหลานข้าอภัยโมเมมันนี่จอนเตสวยตัวนี้กันตัวเราจวนพุ่นมาสลามากัน resource person Professor Lalthlamuani Head Department of English MZU Mizoram University in กันนุนปุยเทตัวทิลชตักปุยโมตักมินซิร์ตีระมินชิลาหุ่นลุตักเซงินมินรอนซิร์ตีระกันลมเบมาตินกันเชอร์แมนกันHODปุยชิลบุลเลียนจงอาโปลมทูกันสวยตินกันเพนเนลเตมิสบีเอลิเตสาร์โอพีเตสาร์บุลเตเลมิสเรมีจงอาเตลอมทูกันสวยตินเปเปอร์ชัตตะการุนเพรสเซนตูชันจงอาลอมทูกันสวยบุกะมิจาวคอนเท็กซ์จังอินไงนุ่มตักไม่นรอนสวยอินบัวใส่น่าเชื่อเมมากันลอมเมบุกันนี่ตินซิร์ไลเลซิร์ติร์ตูเฮไลมุนมิรอนเตลปุยตูซูมาจังเตยูทูปจังมิรอนเตลปุยตูเตจงอาลอมทูกันสวยบุกะตินนักเรียนเซล่ายูทูปเราเอ็นเล่เซลตัวเตปอยน์อินโลกุยง่ายกันดูสักบุกเซวันนี้ส่วนนี้กัน principal จงอาลอมทูกันสวยบุกะมิน support ช่วยเบมาเองกิมาจงอาลอมทูกันสวยบุกันนี่ตินเฮหุนมินบัวใส่สักตัว IQAC เตอันที่ยามกันติเล่topic ชัดตักซิร์ไลไม่นี่เราง่ายทัดมิช่างแค่นี้ซิร์ติร์ตูเตเลง่ายทัดเซลตัวเตปอยนะกันโลกุยเทตัว topic ชัดตักอันรอนสบชัวกันลมเมบุกันนี่ตินเฮหุนทวมตักเละชัดตะกันมินพันติร์ตูปะเทียนจงอาลอมทูกันสวยบุกขัดจงค่ะกันหุนมันเทเตอันนี้ส่วนนี้นักตู่กาขานดาร์โซมากันจันเลี้ยงตินจุลัยนี่เลี้ยงหุ่นกันมังโดนะไงโนมินเบียงวาร์ท่ากาตินกันไงกันนุนปุยเทียงหัลตัวทิลชัตักตักอันนี้ส่วนบางส่วนนี้ไงทักเลเวกเตลเวกกันตัวมังตินโซนโซตัวเตขันเลวินบวชใส่อุลาIQAC บวชใส่กันทิลมันฮีอัชชาโลกปุยอีลาตินซิร์ไลชวกไม่ตัวเตะเล่นกันสวยเลยโลกกันซิร์ไลชวกไม่ตัวเตตานะที่อันนี้ตินซิร์ไลจูไม่บากาซิร์ไลเฮลายาเลซิร์เมกตันที่เลชวกตัวเตตันเลนาอินซอนนาเตสุการนาอินกุดนาทอนาเตเองกิมดอรินหานาเองนาพอทุกอุลาตินอินเจนปุยเตเนนเตปัวอินกุ้งไก่นะชาอินในนันเตียขากันซิร์ไลค่ะ in zir chua in man nge kan du sak chewa khatiang in man thei chuan khwa le tui tha in lo ni don ani ole khati zong kha kan hun man thei te chu ani a kan lo me